and welcome back to the first episode, actually, of Who Talks. I'm here with a very, very special guest. Would you like to, I don't know, reintroduce yourself, introduce yourself? I don't know.
Should I do, should I say the thing?
Yeah, go
What's up, everybody, and welcome to your new show. Hooray, I'm the dwfan91. I should probably get something catchier than that, but no, I like it. dwfan91 on YouTube, hooray.
Yeah, rolls off the tongue fine, man. we're chilling. But we've got a lot to talk about.
My brain is completely frazzled. I am so ready to just talk about what we have just seen. You know what I mean?
I mean, I haven't actually spoke to like an actual fan, right? So I went to the cinema to see it. I went to see it with my dad, and you know, it was whatever. And then like, I've managed to speak to one other person who's actually going to be like co-hosting Who Talks eventually, but he has no interest in watching the new stuff. So like, I've had no one to talk to about like you know any of this. So I've got a lot of thoughts. It's probably the finale and Regeneration
back to me
that I thought about the most.
Yes,
it's great.
There's I mean, you say that, but then you actually look at the episode proper, and there's a hell of a lot there as well. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because like every finale and every Regeneration, I feel like almost basically immediately, right? Maybe like 2 days after, it's kind of like, you know, that happened, right? I just move on, right? I move on with my life like a regular human being. This one has been completely different. Like this one, I've been thinking about for the past few days since it happened, and I'm actually like annoyed by it, right? Like maybe not the finale itself, but the handling of shooting Albus Doctor. It's something that's really annoyed me.
Has broken me. I feel it's safe to say that the reality war has just. I'm a veteran of the reality war. It is. Oh my god, you guys don't understand, right? I have never felt this way before after, as you say, a Regeneration episode, because usually this is my favorite time to be a fan. Right?
Yeah.
I am always, my favourite parts of a New Doctor era are its start and its end. Even if the end is bad, I don't care, right? Because it means a new step forward, new stuff to be excited about, and just that kind of buzz that you get from the start. Again, it's like the full wheel has turned. But, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this later on, but I don't know about you, but I don't think there is anything new after this.
No, I don't think so. And I think as well, what's even more devastating is I think this era had so much promise. Like it had so many ideas, so many cool ideas.
Literally reset.
Like,
man. Yeah, it literally is a reboot.
That's what it's meant to be, right? It's series 1 or season 1 or whatever, right? Disney Who or whatever, like people want to call it, right? This is the new era. We've got this, we got that, right? Last series, right? We had Sutek, right? Which of course old villain, right? But I think it works. Like you don't need to know who Sutek really is from the classic era to feel like, you know, this guy's threatening. Yeah, like the guy's called the God of Death, right? You can understand that. This time round, I don't know. Like the name Omega, right? Doesn't. I don't know. If you're a classic viewer, then of course,
they weren't even new to the show. They've watched every series, right, of Doctor Who, which is a lot. It's 15 seasons, right? The investment. And not only did they have no idea, the first reaction to his name is, if he's the first Time Lord, shouldn't he be called Alpha? Because, like, obviously, I don't understand this retcon bullshit to make him the first Time Lord. His name is Omega, right? And rant aside, right? All of that. The point is, if you've watched 15 series of a TV show, you should not be at the point where you're still lost. You know what I mean? Still, 20 years into the show, and people who followed and watched every episode, they still don't know what's going on. Like, at a certain point, why are we still holding the Rani? A, the Rani was not popular when she came out, right? And B, that was 40 years ago in like the least popular time of the show, right? Why is that being brought back up? And if that was going to be brought back up, you've got to do a hell of a lot of work to make it actually important. You can't just randomly drop it in season 2 of a reboot. Okay, so we're talking about this reboot thing, right? Do you know what it is? Literally, again, it's the TV movie. Again, it's all of the same problems that the TV movie had again. And this is right after Jodie Whittaker's era, which fell into all the same pit traps as the Seventh Doctor era. And then the Capaldi era has a lot of similarities to the Sixth Doctor's era, right? Even down to the year-long hiatus in 1985 and 2016, right? Matt Smith and the Fifth Doctor, both the youngest Doctors, a new showrunner, all of that stuff. David Tennant and the Fourth Doctor, that should be kind of obvious. And then the Ninth Doctor and the Third Doctor, which are reinventions starting with the Autons and all of that stuff. It's just history repeating itself yet again.
It's like poetry, it rhymes, bro.
It's like poetry, it rhymes. Except Russell T Davies has come out time and time again for the past 20 years saying how the TV movie got it wrong. And then he makes the exact same mistakes, like to the letter. I mean, the TV, he said this in 2005. He said, it would be so stupid to bring in a lead and then immediately kill him off and replace him with someone else. That's what you did with the 14th Doctor. You brought in David Tennant and then you immediately killed him off and replaced him. Well, you didn't kill him off literally, but you took him out of the narrative to never be mentioned again, which is arguably worse.
Which I've got lots on that later as well, because like it's ridiculous how like two finales, right, especially the reality war, right?
Oh my god!
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Like we're talking about how the Doctor's doubts, right? Apparently, according to the Wish World, right, is meant to be breaking down the barrier, right? There's another fucking Doctor there.
Yeah,
there is literally another Doctor.
Right? Yeah.
Surely that's got to be like, how does that not come into the plot? How does that not affect it?
You know what I find kind of saddening, right? People say, oh, well, maybe he was off-world. Am I the only one who is equally, if not more, interested in a series where the Doctor and Donna are off-world trying to get back to May 24th than I would be for this Doctor and Belinda, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, but that is just more intriguing because I care about those characters more, which shouldn't be the case because this should be a new era. That comparison shouldn't even be allowed to happen. But again, we do it. We team up with an American distributor or whatever, and oh my goodness, just all of the same problems. The TV movie, I love it, right? And I do like this era as well. But starting with Skaro and then a narration of the Time Lords and all of that, that's not how you get a new audience. And here, bringing in two Ranis for a two Ranis joke, which to be fair was funny, and then Omega, and then doing all of this Time Lord shenanigans, no one fucking cares, bro. Like, if I don't care, imagine like a new audience. It's just complete nonsense. Exactly. This is coming from someone, Rusty Davies, who said the Timeless Child was too wordy. I mean, I agree.
Like, yeah.
But like, how do you
and the thing is with the Rani, right? Like, to a certain extent, happy to see her back. But, like, the way you should have gone about it, right, is she should have been, like, a shitter of the week, right? If you want to go down that road. Just bring her back in a random episode. Like, I would have been happy there. Because, not, like, you know, she's not this big threat or whatever. But you can introduce her as, you know, another Time Lord. You literally, that's all the context you need. She's a scientist.
Time Lord, and then she could die, and then the Doctor can be like, I'm the last of the Time Lords. And that's how you set that up, instead of just the Doctor saying it again and again, even though we know it's not
being all dramatic. Yeah, it could really work there. But setting her up, like, my eyes rolled when that reveal and that awful God by Generation at the end, especially because Anita Dobson
and the Billy Piper effect somehow.
But because Anita Dobson, she should have been the main one. She was I'm not like, I don't talk about people's acting, right, necessarily, unless it's like egregiously bad. But I was way more invested in her as a character, right, as like someone we've seen for the past 2 years.
She's better as a character and a villain, but Punjabi is better as the Rani, right? So if she's really good. Rani, she should have been the Rani.
Yeah,
and Mrs. Flood should have been a separate villain.
And that's what's unfortunate is like you've got attached to this version of what we now know is the Rani, right, Mrs. Flood, for the past 2 series, and then we've just introduced a brand new one. Like realistically,
I rewatched The Church on Ruby Road. There's no way she was meant to be the Rani.
Oh no way.
It makes no sense. Ironically, I had a great time with The Church on Ruby Road because it reminded me of that excitement in 2023 where it's like, we could be going on to something, you know, brand new. And then it was just the same thing again and again. Yeah, and I just feel so sad. I feel so betrayed because, as everyone knows, I've been such a champion of this era to the very last second. And then, you know what's crazy? All of this stuff that we're talking about, I might be able to, obviously I'd still have problems with it, but I might be able to like give it a slight pass if it didn't immediately backtrack and say, actually, you guys were right, this does suck Billy Piper.
Yeah, it's just so unfortunate because, like, I remember when I first saw, like, The Church on Ruby Road, and I'm going to be real, right? do not like that episode, right? That was just my personal opinion.
Right? It's
But
not that good.
Shooty and Millie Gibson, like, I thought they had something there, like something really good that would, at least with Shooty go on for maybe 3 years, maybe like realistically 3 seasons, depending how it goes, right? To cut him off this short, and that's my issue with it, right? Is that Reality War has a bunch of issues that we of course talk about, but my biggest issue is that he's had his arc cut short, and I think what annoys me more, right, is out of all the returns and stuff of like Omega and the Rani and all these other characters, the one I cared about most was Susan, and she got fucked over. She got completely fucked over.
Got cut
the most interesting one. Look, even people who are new fans could understand. Well, that's the Doctor's granddaughter. That's a really easy concept, right, to understand. You don't have to be an old viewer or a classic who enjoyer to get that and feel excitement about that, right? That's something that's built up over the past 2 series for Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor. And she gets cut out for Regeneration because, unfortunately, Ncuti Gatwa, maybe he's got other opportunities or whatever. He doesn't want to go forward with being the Doctor.
I heard
He isn't
the
going to go
rumor
forward.
that apparently Ncuti Gatwa had to turn down a perfume commercial that would have paid more than his entire tenure as Doctor Who. And he had to turn that down because he was committed to Doctor Who.
And it's awful. And hearing as well, I don't know if you heard about that scene that was apparently there. Of course,
yes, I have.
take it with a grain of salt with Susan, right? Being watching over as a party or whatever, right? From that leaked photo of whatever. That sounds fine. I would take that, and it's going
that would have been a good
sets
ending.
up the 3rd season. I would have loved that, right? It really sets it up. But instead, and we can actually go over this now, right? Before actually taking a look at the Reality War, is we're left with no conclusions to the Susan arc, which I don't think will get any continuation if the show goes forward. I don't think it will. Then the Pantheon, which is something that I got really invested in. I thought it was a great idea. It doesn't go anywhere. It will not go anywhere. Sutek, amazing. We set it off with Neil Patrick Harris as the toy maker.
He was so good.
Enjoyable. Look, Jigs Monsoon and the Maestro stuff wasn't personally to my taste, but was fine. It was still enjoyable.
I thought it was fun. Stuff was brilliant. I think
Lux was amazing.
Mr. Ringerding has ironically taken a life outside the show.
Yeah, he blew up on everywhere. 40 million views of short and stuff. And the Pantheon was a very interesting idea, and of course, one of my favorite characters of all time, my favorite villain, the Trickster, who I've always wanted to return. He got name dropped. I really thought that's where they were going to take this, right, with the whole Wish World stuff.
I really did.
Yeah, and it would make sense.
The point of the Trickster, right? But I of course had the theory that Mrs. Frub would be the god of wishes, and I know it's childish to be oh, I'm salty, but I feel like everything, even in Wish World, is kind of setting up this storybook aesthetic. And the Church on Ruby Road and the Star Beast, they both start with Once Upon a Time, and there's all this talk about stories across the whole past few seasons. And I am salty that didn't turn out to be the case, but I'm more salty that nothing in the Pantheon, apart from a baby, I suppose, which is, it's not the worst idea in the whole world, but at the same time, Omega Rani, it doesn't thematically fit with the stuff that we've got here. I know a lot of people had problems with the Pantheon, but I think it's genuinely a really good idea.
Genuine. Yeah, really good idea. And my thing is with the Trickster's a villain that I think again with the Rani and Omega, right, is how they've been brought back doesn't work. But if you brought back the Trickster and immediately Wish World, right, he grants wishes or what you know what I mean, right, how his abilities work. It's really easy to explain. Right? Yeah, exactly. It's really easy to it's an easy concept, right, to understand.
You could say Conrad made a deal with the devil, right, to get his world, but Conrad is being tricked, obviously, and the easy way to defeat the Trickster is the same way you do in every story, is you convince Conrad to go back on his deal, right? That's a full story right there, right?
Yeah, and it works. It works, and as well, you don't have to have him as a big fucking CGI monster. He can just be how disgustingly scary he was for a kids' TV show, right?
I mean, you can redo the design, but not in that CGI way. You know what I mean? If they wanted to, you know what I mean? Update the design, but you don't need to do it in that way. I think the reason Omega hurts isn't necessarily because it's a CGI design, right? Hear me out. But it's because it's just another one after Sutek. It's the second best. If you look at the Sutek design, that I understand people have a problem with it, right? I get it. As a classic fan, I get it, right? But it is a good design, and that concept art is amazing, and the effects work is really quite impressive, and he's
I love
a
it, yeah.
snarling beast.
Well,
And then you look at Omega, and he's ugly as fuck. He looks like that Scooby-Doo the movie guy.
Well,
You know what I mean?
and
Like,
with
it
Sutek
really
as
is
well.
quite a bad effect.
Well, yeah, and with Sutek, you can look at him and go, like, compare that and go, I can understand, like, similarities here, right? It does look a bit like Sutek. His characterization is still intact. They didn't character assassinate him there. He's still, like, the same motives, like, bringing back, the amazing voice actor, right? Just amazing, right?
Yeah.
Amazing guy, right?
Iconic voice lines, even if you didn't like Empire of Death, which I think both of us were a lot more keen on it than like the majority of people.
I really love that episode. Like, it's got its issues, of course, right? The fucking screen or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But really enjoyed that episode, and unfortunately, I think it does get a bit of a flack. I can understand why, but still really enjoyed it. And Sutek, I think, is really menacing, really great.
I think if you just rearrange like the order of some things, right? Like we find out who the mother is at the same time as Sutek does, instead of in the epilogue after. Right, you don't even have to change the reveal. Then I think it just works a lot better. But as a story, I think it's not that bad. Seriously, I think it's pretty good.
And then compare that to like Omega, who's on screen for less than 3 minutes. He's not the same character. It's just the name. He's got the same name.
Yum yum.
Yeah. He eats the fucking Rani. Like it's unbelievable. He's not the same character. He just has the name.
Well, it's because it's meant to represent, the original sin, because Time Lords are now meant to be colonialists, and so Omega's being reinvented into all of that, which maybe would be a decent idea if you wanted to do a different character. Personally, I don't think it's a good idea in general. But with Omega, like, there are clear contradictions where it's like, oh, they cast him out, and it's like, well, no. He was a pretty cool guy. Everyone was like, Omega, yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. It's a shame what happened to him, right? And then Omega was like, I need revenge because they all abandoned me. But everyone just thought he died. It's like, he was a great guy. He really helped, and then he died. It sucks that he died. So I don't understand where this whole thing came from. Except he wanted to make a thematic point. Except it isn't relevant to any of the other themes of the story. So it just comes out of nowhere. And just feels really shoehorned in a way where it's like new audiences who don't know who Omega is are going to be like, what's going on? This doesn't really fit. And new and old viewers are going to be like, well, hang on, that's not Omega. And it's like, well, why did you even change it? There's so many weird kind of plot inconsistencies where it does nothing for a new audience, and for a classic audience, it like directly takes them out. Where the Rani's searching for Omega's body, even though famously, right, this isn't like a thing that you can miss if you watch Omega's episodes, right? He doesn't have a body. That's the twist. The twist is he doesn't have a body. Right?
Look at Arc of Infinity. It's his whole fucking... it pisses me off. And like, I wouldn't have an issue with the big CGI thing if you just remove the name Omega and make it just the Time Lord's original sin. Their first experiments.
Right? Like,
be fine.
You can have that idea there and just not have it to Omega. Now, the idea itself, in my opinion, is not that interesting, but the idea of the whole wish world is also not that interesting to me in the first place. Like, was it? I think it's because, and this is similar to a lot of the problems with this era, the best parts of this era is when it deviates entirely from the past. And then the big cons are when it just does the exact same thing again. And I said this in my video, right? And I'm sure everyone noticed, but the similarities between this two-parter and then the Sound of Drums and Last of the Time Lords and all of that is like almost too blatant to be ignored. I thought it was a parody when the Rani pulled out like music in the last episode. It's just, are you doing that just because that's what John Sim did, right? Like, if we know that it's similar, you don't need to go above and beyond to make it even more similar.
Yeah, and like the Sound of Drums Utopia and like Lost of the Time Lords, probably like, I know it's not an official 3-parter, right? But as like a 3-parter, it's my favorite set of episodes, right? Like in consecutive run, I love them. Very good episodes. Like I love those episodes.
And then you look at the Interstellar Song Contest, Wish World, and the Reality War, and you think, oh, we got it at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why can't there just be? I know that he has new story ideas, because you look at Lux, right? And The Well is a sequel to Midnight, right? So it's kind of in that same vein of what I'm talking about. But as a story, it isn't aping the same like plot structure, bar for bar, beat for beat, that Wish World and the Reality War are doing. And for me, right, obviously the episodes, they don't really work on a moment-to-moment logical basis, right? But beyond that, the problem is just how unoriginal they are, for me. And it isn't even just to, like, RTD1's era. This feels like a poor man's Empire of Death, right? Thematically, it's also, I mean, line-wise, it's stealing from End of Time, where the Doctor tells Rassilon, you know, back into the Time War, back into hell, and then here he says to Omega, back into hell, and it's like, can you stop copying yourself, please?
And that's how you bring back, like, you know, an old Time Lord that realistically no one gives a shit about, like, who is an older fan, is the way they did with Rassilon. They didn't name drop him and go, oh god. They name drop the Time Lord, something that's been built up, right?
Yeah.
Over the past 4 series. Something that the audience actually gives a shit about because it's been built up so much. Could you imagine instead of dropping, like, name dropping the Time Lords, they name drop Rassilon? The audience would go, who the fuck's that? Why have we name dropped him?
Was it for me, right? It's so odd seeing season 2 where the Rani is the main big bad, because I mean, I know it's been a meme since pretty much 2010, right? When's the Rani coming back? But it's basically the equivalent of bringing back the fucking Vervoids, right? Like, no one liked the Rani, really, right? Time of the Rani is one of maybe the worst episodes, like, fucking ever. This is like 30 years from now, there's a new reboot, and everyone's like, can you bring back the villain from Praxeus? Right? It's like, well, that's a thing from the past, but like, people didn't really like Praxeus, and the villain isn't really that intriguing. Like, oh, but there's such an interesting idea there to be told with microplastics, and it's like, is there really? Is it just
bring back the fucking Autons? Fucking, you know what?
I mean, what is it? I have a lot of problems with the episode, but I think that the reason they are so exemplified is that ending, where realistically, right, if it was just a bad episode, I can say, you know what? Every now and then we have bad episodes, right? Yeah. And I can look over it and it doesn't really have lasting consequences. And yeah, it's a bit of a mess, but, and I still think this, even with all those criticisms, it is kind of an enjoyable mess for those first 30 minutes of action, in that you watched it in the cinema. I'm sure there was like a buzz in the audience around you that you could feel.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's the kind of the Rise of Skywalker effect where you're like, so nothing makes any sense. All this is kind of bad. But, you know, you can kind of enjoy it, right? Like, there's a little bit of action and then I don't need to watch the film again, right? But then you go into the reshoots and it's impossible to ignore all of the stuff before now, because that's all we have, right? Because there's nothing to look forward in the future to, because I don't know where you are on this, but I personally don't think that there will be a next episode, right, of the show. I think it ends here. And so the only real next course of action is to look back on that final episode and then to judge it as a final episode. And as a final episode, it's emblematic of every single thing that the modern show has struggled with, which is just obsession and rehashing of the past on every level. In the text, outside the text, the structure of the story, the character dynamics, all of it. Even down to Kate Stewart's bizarre line, I think we're all your children. That's just another rehash.
So bad. It's
one of the worst lines of the show. But it's just trying to ape a better story again. And it's like...
Well, like, I was sitting there, like, in the cinema watching it, and, like, you know, and Anita shows up with the time door. Don't mind that, right? A lot of people have been shitting on it. I don't mind it too much, right?
It's
like, I can see the issues. It's goofy, whatever. It's not too bad, right? I can kind of look past that. I don't mind their character as well. It's fine. You know, her going to past episodes. I like that. That's all right. I don't mind that, right? Looking for the Doctor. You know, that's the fan service, which is like I can accept. I like
the reason I give it a pass is because she sees Rogue as well. If it was just past episodes and nothing from this era, I'd be like, well, what the fuck?
Yeah, it'd be pointless. But and then we go on, and I just feel like the issues build, right? And then we get sort of like the reshoots and stuff. And yeah, I'm very split on if the show will be coming back or not. Because on the one hand, you know, well, look, I feel like maybe they have to do at least one more special or whatever. But then as well, I can't remember where I read this, but like about bringing it back to the beginning, right? Ending like we start with Rose or like Billy Piper's face,
Yeah, I
and
saw
we
that as
end
well.
with Billy Piper's face, and it just doesn't fill me with confidence that we're going forward, right? This was meant to be the reboot; it wasn't meant to be the end of New Who. The 60th anniversary, where David Tennant's sitting in that garden and he says he's never been more happy in his life, is meant to be the end of like New Who, right? That's meant to be the end of that era, and it makes sense.
Mm,
I don't mind the ending. I think that's fine.
I do.
I think it's got its issues. Um, but like I prefer that ending to
What for this one?
yeah,
Well,
like if we're ending off the era.
the reason why I hate it is because it's basically what this is, right?
Mhm.
Which is an ending, right? It's an ending to the show, right? Realistically, Doctor Who could end with the Doctor settling down and doing all of that. I personally think it's massively out of character, like real blatant character assassination and just really shit for the show, right? But then it does it anyway in the reality war. So it probably should have just ended in the giggle, right?
Well, yeah,
Because that is the ending of that era, and I hate that because I hate the idea of Doctor Who ending, which is why I hate this, because I hate the idea of Doctor Who ending. But this is worse.
10 times worse. If the show like ended on David Tennant saying he's never been happier, right? I would be like, well, I don't want it to end, right? But like, I would be more satisfied because we've got a conclusion, right? It feels like there's a kind of a conclusion there.
Would be happier. I would personally be completely distraught and filled with rage.
Yeah.
And I must admit, I'm kind of petty in that way. Everyone else being kind of happy and being like, "Yay, Doctor Who can end!" and "Oh, what a perfect ending!" That would make me kind of pissed off because I just hate the idea of that Doctor Who ending. I personally think survival's the best way to do it. But woohoo, hot take, right? Of they just walk into the wilderness and then they keep going on adventures forever. Because I think that's the joy of Doctor Who, right? Now that doesn't mean I want everything to go on forever because each Doctor's incarnation must begin and end. But the overall story of Doctor Who being a madman in a box who goes off in time and space, I think that can go on forever, right? I don't mean the 7th Doctor should go on forever or the 10th Doctor should go on forever, but the story of Doctor Who can go on forever because that regeneration is inbuilt into the DNA of the show that will keep it being new, right? But with that ending, right? If it did end there, I'd hate it. Now it ends here, right? And everyone is like, "Oh my goodness!" Well, not everyone. A small minority of people are like, "Oh my goodness, I can't wait to see where it goes next." And I just hate to break the news to all of them. It's like it's not going anywhere next. This is exactly what happened in 1989. They never announced that it was cancelled, right? They just said, "Oh, it's going to be on hiatus," and then they just never came back to it. And there were constant rumors throughout 1989 all the way up to 2004 where it's like, "Oh, there's stuff in the works. Oh, there's going to be things happening. Oh, there's going to be this and that," right? And there was kind of stuff releasing, and I think maybe there'll be like similarly to Dimensions in Time, a Children in Need special that will be garbage, right? And will, I don't know, you know what I mean? But we won't actually have Doctor Who back for a very, very long time. It's basically the Wilderness Era too, but they can't say anything because they've still got to make the war between the land and the sea. So if they came out now and said Doctor Who's done, then that would just shoot that in the foot and screw that over. But the main thing where it's like it's just inarguable is the fact that there hasn't been a press release with Billy Piper, right? We're a week almost. No, we're not a week. We're like half a week from it. No word.
Well, the most we've had is that interview, right, with RTD and then Billy Piper's comments about, "Oh, who is this person? Who is it? Oh no." I just don't give a shit. I don't care who it is. I don't
give anything. I've got no interest. There was someone sent this on the Discord server. BBC Wiltshire's Instagram said Swindon's Billy Piper is the next Doctor Who. It got 30 likes and then was maybe deleted because it was probably a mistake. But that's the only official notice that we've gotten on whether or not Billy Piper is the next Doctor Who or not. And it's completely irrelevant, doesn't matter. And it's just really demoralizing because I'm in grief, right? All of this rage and anger and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Where I'm like, "Oh, the reality war, this part didn't make sense and this part didn't." It's just coming from a place of grief because I didn't want my show to end. You know what I mean? I love Doctor Who. And you know, it's kind of a part of me. I am the dwfan91. It is in the name, and so it going away, especially after so much promise and basically a near consistent run of 16 stories, 18 stories, however you want to call it, right? And then it goes out on such a whimper, with the final frame being Billy Piper's "When the Imposter is Sus" smile.
And she talks directly to the audience. Yeah, like,
oh, hello. You get it?
Yeah,
That's what
oh,
David
fuck
Tennant said. You get it? That's what David Tennant said. Oh
but
my
like,
god!
look, with David Tennant's regeneration, like on David Tennant's regeneration, with the 14th Doctor's regeneration, right?
Oh,
Yeah, sorry about that. But with the 14th Doctor's regeneration, I was less like, whatever. Like, I like that. Like, again, right? Like, a lot of people say, you know, fan wank or whatever. But I can wrap my head around it, right? And I think we might have spoken about this last time.
It's not really a comparison, right? Doctor coming
Yeah,
back to being
because
the Doctor.
it's been like hinted at, right?
Is obviously like everyone knows since like their very first watch of the show, right? Just as like a gut instinct, right? If you are a fan, right, that companion Doctor fan casts are just all crap. Like we just know that, right? Like if someone came up to you I don't know how old you were when Matt Smith was leaving in 2013, but however old you were, and say Karen Gillan's going to be the next Doctor Who, you would obviously say, no, she's not. Because obviously she's not going to be. That's like the dumbest thing ever, right? I'm sorry, and people were saying, oh, but if it was Jenna Coleman, obviously not, man. I don't understand this stuff where people are saying, oh, but if it was the right one, no. We all know this, right? And we've always known this. And it's like when you read these people, it's like, oh, this is who's going to be the next Doctor. And it's like, well, obviously they're not going to be, right? Except now it's like the worst case scenario. In my opinion, I can't think of anyone who's worse, right? And I hate on a fundamental level. And then people saying, oh, but she was good in Doctor Who before. It's like, yeah, but she was in Doctor Who before as like a main character, right? That would be like, I don't know. It would be like if Katie Manning came back to be the Doctor, right? And
it's like, it wouldn't make any sense.
It's not only does it reek of desperation, it reeks of like pure carnal desperation, where it's like we are disregarding everything. We've got no standards, no fucking nothing, right? We are doing absolutely anything to just say, do you remember this, right? Because, okay, so the reason I didn't like David Tennant as the 14th Doctor, even though I understood it was an anniversary thing, is because of the precedent it's set. So retroactively, I'm kind of being proven right, but I don't want to be proven right. And here, when people say, oh, it's the same as Peter Capaldi coming back or Colin Baker coming back, it just so isn't, man. Like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, because ever since I was like maybe 2 or 3 years old, since I could very first conceptualize like communication and opinions on what I was watching, right? Obviously, a companion turning into the Doctor doesn't make any sense. That's not how that works, right? It just it doesn't fit with the logic of the show, of like the meaning of the show. The companion and the Doctor are 2 different roles. You can't interchange them, right? And people, I got this comment saying, Billy Piper played Cassandra very well in New Earth. And I thought, well, A, I don't like that episode. B, that's not how that works. And C, what the hell are we even talking about here?
It's just not comparable. It's not the same.
I feel like I'm losing my mind because I feel so viscerally about this. And I look around at everyone else and they're saying, oh, well, you know, she could be pretty decent. It's like, no, she can't. Obviously she can't. This isn't how these companions work, right? David Tennant, I really didn't like him coming back, but I've seen David Tennant be Doctor Who before, right? So I'm not like, oh, he's going to be terrible. I'm just like, I don't like what this means for the show, right? Billy Piper plays the companion. We already know that Rusty Davies' ideology on this is there's no point on bringing someone back if they're going to be different. That's what he said in the commentary track for the Star Beast and the Giggle. He said it would be stupid to bring David Tennant back for him not to be the same. So Billy Piper's going to come back to be the same. What's the point there? Billy Piper never played the Doctor. She played Rose. Why don't you just bring Billy Piper back as Rose if you're going to do that then? I mean, I'm ranting here, but that's because that's what this is, right? This podcast's a rant. You know what I mean?
No, again, man. And like, with her coming back, not only does it set a bad precedent, like I guess, like, of course I get your issues with like David Tennant's 14th Doctor, right? But with that, like, for me, like, my rationalization is, look, this has been brought up for the 50th anniversary, right? With Tom Baker as a curator, right? He mentioned about you might revisit a couple of old faces, right? That's the line that, like, always sticks in my head, right? Is that I can rationalize this. It makes more sense, right? I can get him going back to, like, faces, you know, and then like, whatever, right? I get that. I can get that 100% more. But here, I just don't get. I don't like get work it. You know, it doesn't make any sense, right? And I saw someone try and rationalize it by like, well, you know, you say a companion can never be like a doctor or whatever, but look at Elizabeth Sladen as like a Sarah Jane, and you know, she's got a Sonic, she's doing all this, but it's like it's completely different because she's not the Doctor. She isn't the Doctor. She's playing a Doctor-like role, right? She's playing that type of role for her, like, you know, her family and these companions that she's got, like her friends, right? But she's not the actual Doctor, right? She's just not. She's just got certain character traits and stuff because she's a friend of the Doctor. When she's in Stolen Earth and Journey's End, she's not the Doctor there, is she? Like, she's completely different. Like, you know,
it's a blatantly dumb comparison, and I feel like I understand where all these people are coming from. I don't want it to be like a kind of obviously it's not personal because no one's mentioned anyone by name. But I don't want anyone who likes the decision to feel attacked, because I understand where it's coming from, because it's coming from a position of cope, where it's like, well, I want the show to keep going, I want it to continue. And where I'm coming from is a much more pessimistic and, in my opinion, honest, because I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe it, because obviously I want the show to continue as well. But I don't think the show is going to continue, because otherwise they would have said anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anything. And so if this is the end, and there isn't any wait for who she's going to be or any of that, or wait for an explanation, right? Not only would I not care for an explanation, there isn't going to be a next episode. You're just meant to judge it on this, right? This is what you're meant to judge it as. And also, I hate it. I do. I think it's a perfect representation of all of the flaws of the past, maybe even 13 years of the show, going back all that way. It's been a power creep, right? Because I think we can both agree, the 14th Doctor, I had my problems, but it's just nowhere near on the level of this. But 100%. It's the same problem. It's just that problem has been growing and growing, right? Like, Doctor Who is too lore-reliant, right? Doctor Who is too lore-reliant. Then Series 12, Doctor Who is really too lore-reliant. Then we get Power of the Doctor, which I enjoyed the episode, and it didn't really matter because it was a finale, right? And not many people were watching. But with the 14th Doctor specifically, it's like, that is really lore-reliant. Then we get Empire of Death, which is nowhere near on the level of this. But I do understand, right, the Tales of the TARDIS, Pyramids of Mars shown down screen. That is lore-reliant. And then we get here, and it's like, that is really, really, really lore-reliant. We've been telling you nicely, this is the final straw where it's like, stop relying on lore, right? We've been telling you for years and years and years and years, and it's just more and more doubled down until the eventual point where, in my opinion, I hate to use the term jump the shark, but it's to the point where me, as someone who loves basically 99.9% of Doctor Who, I just can't be invested in that story decision and what it means for the show's future in the decades going beyond. Now, what I would be happy with is, say, kind of just forgetting that it exists, and so the novels and comics and all that continue on with Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor, which is the non-selfish way to do it, right? But if expanded media comes out with all of that, I just think, what a middle finger, you know? What a, as my dad says it, leaving a shit on your way out, you know what I mean? It's like, well, we're going to take Ncuti Gatwa away, we're going to have this kind of really rushed and kind of fuck you-ish reshoot where we kick him out the door, then we bring in Billy Piper, and we don't go out with dignity, right? We go out with a full whimper in a desperate bid to try and maybe get the BBC to commission more, which just is never going to happen. They can't afford it without a streamer, and it's just so sad. It makes me so sad, man. You don't understand, right? It's because I want to be on its side so much, but it's made so many consecutive decisions where I can't be on its side, not when it says this and does this and who it's appealing to, Doctor Who's meant to be for 8-year-olds, right? Make stuff that's exciting for 8-year-olds. Stop making stuff that appeals to, fans who've been around for 40 years or something. I'm a classic Who fan. Don't appeal to me. I'm saying don't appeal to me, right? I don't want you to appeal to me, because when you try to appeal to me, we get stuff like this, right? Try and make something exciting for a kid again, right? Try and make a fun, well, it doesn't even have to be fun, just a thrilling, exciting Dalek story, right? The best episodes, in my opinion, are the ones that I think aren't made for me, right? So 73 Yards wasn't made for me, right? That was a story made for basically Russell T Davies. It was a story Russell Davies wanted to make for himself. But I could feel that passion, and I could see that quality and the energy that brings out in him. And so I liked it. Clearly, this reality war, right? I've seen a lot of people say, oh, this is Russell T Davies' favourite type of story. It obviously isn't, because he said he never wanted to come back to Doctor Who again. And he's already rushed off to a new show to tell the types of stories that he wants to tell, which are more personal and grounded, right, and not sci-fi-y. But he did this, and he brought the Rani back, a character which we know he doesn't like. He's gone on record to say that he thinks Arc of Infinity was like a turning point in Doctor Who, where it got too fanish and he didn't like it, right? But he does all of that stuff because he thinks it will appeal to someone like me. And it just all crumbles down. And that's my big problem with this show. Sorry for the massive rant. Please forgive me, but still.
No, it's all good, bro. And I mean, going as well, just quickly back to, like, the fact that if the show doesn't come back or whatever, even if it does, realistically, it's going to be about 2 years until we see anything, right? That's a long time, right? A long way on fucking Billy Piper's bad CGI edited face. Not of course, not calling her actual face bad, but you know what I mean. Onto Shooty's body. Yeah, where fucking Shooty Gatwa's neck is still there. You can still see it. It doesn't.
The chin and the hair popping out in the background.
2 years to wait for that. It's insane.
Behind her, like just.
Yeah. It's awful. And like to leave that image
the VFX artists too much.
No.
They have a real crunch, because those were shot like 3-4 months ago. The Billy Piper bit was shot in March, right?
Yeah.
June. So yeah, poor guys. I mean, dang. But it's just such a terrible image, even theoretically, to be the last one for ages at least.
Well, and that's what I meant as well, right? Is that, like, let's say, like, Doctor Who, and of course, like, whatever, took a hiatus after, like, that scene in the garden, right? Just thinking about it logistically of, like, an image, right, to leave you on, right? Of course, like, nothing, like, else, right? Is that, like, would I rather be left on an image of the Doctor just there with Donna Noble, a very popular companion, right? We've got this idea of Wilf and, whatever. And, there is... Look, it's unfortunate, but, like, whatever.
It would be
leaving it on this image.
Like, it would be a fan favourite way to end it, right? It wouldn't appeal to me, but I'm not really talking about that now, because me, right? Fans would love it in the same way where I don't like Twice Upon a Time, but fans do like that story, right?
Yep.
And it would be a way, like a way to end it where fans would enjoy it. How about this, right? There's a 2-year hiatus after that, and then season 1 and 2 come out combined as one 16-episode series, right? Would that be better? I think so.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously we can't go back in time and change timelines and all of that. It does just seem like a massive shame that all of these big decisions were made when we were promised so much. We were promised yearly Who, all of this stuff, and then they make consistent errors that they systematically go back on all their promises. And it's like, as someone who, I mean, I've been championing Doctor Who when it was like really unpopular to do so, right? I'm talking like the time the children came out. But then we go to the RTD2 era, right? And I've been championing it when everyone was back. Then I was championing it with Space Babies when everyone thought it was gone again. And then with Empire of Death, and then with the Robot Revolution, and with all of these episodes. And I've been always saying, I'm so pro and positive. And then it feels like a real kind of spit in the face, and like why did I do all of that? I just feel like an idiot. I don't regret it, because I was being true and honest, right? I wasn't doing it just for the sake of saying, oh, I like Doctor Who. I genuinely thought it was good. But I kind of feel like a clown now because everyone is saying all this stuff that they've kind of been saying for years, except I can't deny it now, right? People have been saying, oh, Doctor Who's going to get cancelled. They've been saying that for years and years and years and years. And I've been saying, no, it won't, no, it won't, no, it won't, no, it won't. Now they say it. I've got to say, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Most likely, yeah. It's very, like, even if it's, like, 50-50 or whatever, it's very likely it's going to lean on the other 50. You know what I mean? And like, just quickly to just bullet point some of my, like, issues, like, really quickly to, like, just wrap up this reality a little bit. So, of course, look, we're talking about big CGI Omega, right? Whatever. Eating the Rani, right, after 2 years of build-up, even though maybe that wasn't his intention, right, to bring back the Rani, right? We've seen, like, Mrs. Flood for 2 years, right? And then her by Generate. To then be eaten by Omega, that is, like, a huge slap in the face, especially if you got invested, right, in who is his character, who is this. Then putting Belinda in a box, and then changing her character completely. Just...
I was Belinda's number one fan. I was her number one fan. Oh my god, she was great. What I mean about it, right? Like, you guys don't understand that I've been literally championing this character before they were even shown on screen, right? Like, that's how big a fan I was. And then for the rumor that she probably wasn't meant to be in this season to come true, it like, why did I say all this stuff? If I knew, like, the future, right, and someone told me all of this, I would just find it saddening and, like, demoralizing. It's like, but there's such a good opportunity here. What's Belinda's role going to be to, like, the antagonist, though she has no connection to them whatsoever? What's her role going to be in the finale? She's going to stand in a reference. Do you get it? It's the Zero.
Oh god, yeah.
Alva. Do you get it? Project Indigo. That's a reference to the Stolen Earth, and it's like, okay,
and it's just like, it's really apparent that she wasn't meant to be here, right? And like, I think the thing that annoys me as well is we opened this series, and of course I don't think anyone cared, right, that the fact that she'd been in the show before, right, as a completely different character, but they made that connection in the first fucking episode and put it on the fucking TARDIS monitor, and we never get back to it, and that's frustrating, and that's where a lot of my other issues come with. Of course, no last scene between Ruby and the Doctor. That's unfortunate.
That's unexcusable,
really,
I think, considering that she is the 15th Doctor's companion.
Is his companion, right? No Susan Foreman after like 2 years of build up for 2 series or whatever, right? So fucking infuriating. And this is one of my biggest ones, right? Not only, of course, you got 14 Doctor and, like, there that we've already spoken about, but the TARDIS fucking explodes. The doors fucking fly at us. Why? Well, why did that happen? Is there any explanation for that? That's probably my biggest thing. Is really pissing me off because I
forgot about that.
Yeah, I know you have to have, like, an ending, right? You know, to really grip you. But the TARDIS doors fucking exploded, and they're looking at it. Why? What happened there? Why are they just back all of a sudden? What happened there? Why is the TARDIS in perfect condition afterwards? And I saw people compare it to, like, when what is it in Turn Left, when, like, all the bad wolf signs come up. I was like, that makes more sense. I can get behind that. I can get behind that. It's not the TARDIS fucking exploding on me. The TARDIS, it didn't blow up there. Like, it's way more logistical. The words everywhere.
Of Turn Left is immediately followed up on in the Stolen Earth. Like, immediately. In one of the best pre-tiles sequences ever, I think.
Chills.
I mean, I'm biased. I love the Stolen Earth. But, like, the whole bit where it goes from just a normal day to, like, real end of the world in just, like, 2 seconds. The Doctor comes out, and then by the time that he's gone back in, it's end of the world, and he just missed. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. So to compare that, I don't think is fair.
Yeah, and like, what was it? Like, the TARDIS is red. Well, it's the end of the world. It's the end of the universe, mate. Like, that's the whole fucking thing. And that ending is gripping. It sends chills. The TARDIS exploding, it got me on a hook of, like, what the fuck's happened here? Only for it not to be explored. Like, genuinely, when we saw, like, John Smith and all this stuff, I thought, okay, maybe the TARDIS is somewhere else, right? Of course it's somewhere else, right? But maybe it's damaged. Maybe something's happened there. Maybe we're connecting back to, like, maybe Sutek, like, while Sutek was riding its spine, right? Maybe something happened there, or just anything, right? But nothing. Like, it just, it's completely fine.
It's worse than that. It's the run that Conrad is in to control the reality.
Exactly.
Do you get it? It's like the paradox machine. Do you get it? It's the same thing. It's the same thing again. It's the Master used the TARDIS to create a paradox to sustain his world. The Rani used the TARDIS to create Conrad's wish to sustain her world. It's like, Come on, man,
It's
please.
so frustrating, and it's just, oh god, I just
When
can't with it.
Rusty Davies first was announced to come back, I was
Oh,
apprehensive.
yeah, I saw
And
those
people
tweets,
said,
bro.
there's no way that he
Yeah.
would come back so you should say the same stuff again. People said
Bro,
that. Oh.
Looking back at those quote tweets, I think that's what I said, like, to announce, like, we do a podcast or whatever about it, is that, like, those tweets, and, like, all the quote tweets are like, like, this is going to be amazing, the show's back, it's great, and it's just, like, I get why everyone was excited, because I remember exactly where I was when I heard that he was coming back, right? I was in a pub garden, really enjoying myself, right? Really excited, saw it, amazing, couldn't wait, and I think at that point I was in, like, a real, like, Chipnell downer, because so I was really excited, and I think that was like with a lot of people. Like, even though looking back, love Jodie as the Doctor. She's got some amazing stories, but you can't deny it. And like, there's been kind of the past few days like well, he wasn't that bad, was he, or whatever kind of thing going on.
So I love the Chibnall era, but I will admit that coronavirus. I feel like more people would be less down on it if it like stuck the landing. But coronavirus just tore it in Flux. As someone who enjoys Flux, and I think most people agree that Series 13 is like the most fun. Imagine that, but with COVID, right? It could have actually, it could have been pretty damn good in my opinion, right? Yes, the Timeless Child, that's a whole separate issue. But moving it back to the Rusty Davies thing, it was, and I've kind of gone back and forth saying this, but it was kind of an admission of, well, it's the Thanos meme, right? Where did that bring you back to me, right?
Yeah, we're fucked kind of thing, you know. It
didn't quite pan out, and this is again what I was talking about, how the timelines and the fact that they've been so difficult with what happened when, right? So I'm sure you know this, right? But Rusty Davies was asked back to the show, right? But we don't know if that was done over a Zoom call or at a party, because there are two conflicting stories. And we don't know if it was the year 2020 or the year 2021, right? Because there are two conflicting dates there, right? And that totally changes the story, because if it was in 2020, then it would have been a response to the Timeless Children. And if it was in 2021, then that would have been a response to Flux and the difficulties of making Doctor Who in coronavirus, right? You see how that totally changes the story.
Yeah.
Right? But because this era, and this also ties to the fact where they're like, this was the plan all along. It's like, no, it wasn't. Because it just insists on not being transparent with what's going on behind the scenes, we're just left completely lost. And if we're left completely lost, then it's really difficult to be like for it, you know? How can you champion, right, a story decision if they're lying about it, right? Like I have, right, but I shouldn't really be able to say, okay guys, cut them a little bit of slack because there were all these reshoots, when they're like, no, there weren't any reshoots. This was the plan all along. It's like, well, if this was the plan all along, then
even in Unleashed, that's how they play it. It is that, like, you know, we didn't do these, no reshoots, right? Let's cover up the slit in his hair, right? Let's make sure no one fucking sees that, right?
Oh my god, they have and it's we all heard what he said on Graham Norton, right? They tried to cover that shit up as well.
It's so funny. It's
this
so funny.
And like, if during the behind the scenes of Flux they said actually coronavirus didn't impact us at all. It's like, well, they're just so blatantly lying.
Yeah. We didn't get any fans or whatever to help with the CGI or anything. Right? People that volunteered. We didn't do that anyway.
What was it? The thing is, right, with that, right, is them, if they did lie about that, surely they realized that would make it worse, right? If they said, we just not because of COVID, we just thought it would be like make it better if we reduce the episode count to 6.
Just be fun, wouldn't it? Fucking just be, you know,
like it would just be fun. And it's like, here's the same thing where it's like, oh, I mean, we could say that we were rushed and did all these reshoots, or we could just say, actually, no, this was the plan all along. It's like that meme where it's like, you realize that's worse, right? Like you do realize that that's worse.
And there's a quote, right? There's that quote from like the poorly aged Twitter account, right? And this tweet's blown up about, like, you know, shooting out, well, the one thing he wants to do, face a Dalek. Didn't get to face any of the big three, right? Every single Doctor, right? The fucking fugitive Doctor, right? And I know it's a hologram, right? But Joe Martin has been on screen with the Cybermen, Daleks, and the fucking Master. Like, 14, right? Got to face, like, or not the face, but, you know, was on screen with the Daleks, right? And I think that shot's amazing. Probably one of my favourite things, right?
Yeah, the whole point of that shot was to get him to meet the Daleks. There's no way that they weren't planning to make him meet the Daleks, right? That's why he would say that, right?
Yeah, and it's like on every single level, right? Like all of them have faced at least the Master, Cybermen, or Daleks, right? Of course, the Master and Cybermen for me, they're not a requirement for every Doctor, right? The
Nah.
Daleks, though, they're a staple. Like, and the thing with the Disney thing is like, you know, the thing that new fans, right, people that have no idea about the show know, maybe bar the Weeping Angels, because arguably, of course, you know, you might disagree and some other people might disagree, but like the Weeping Angels and the Daleks, I feel like
I
culturally
agree. I do
are on
agree.
kind of the same level, right? Um,
You should have gone
aside from the Weeping Angels,
either.
but the Daleks are there. The Daleks needed to be there for like to kickstart because people know about the Daleks. Even the Weeping Angels would have been a good start, right? They know these creatures, they know these things. It'd be a great way to put like into the show. It didn't have to be series 1 or series 2, series 3 or whatever, right? But they needed to be in this era to really settle fans in.
This episode.
Oh god, it's yeah.
And if you watch the behind the scenes, they're like, "We love the Daleks. We really want to work with them." And I'm like, "So why didn't you include them then?"
I saw a tweet was like
the director saying, "I've always asked for more Daleks, and they've always said no." It's like, well, why are they saying no?
People are like, oh, we haven't had a long enough break. Really? Like, since the last proper Dalek episodes? Since they were the focal point, right?
Yeah,
have we not had a long enough break with them?
Oh, yeah, we have. I mean, the fact is that the longest break without a Dalek story should realistically be like 2 years, right? If we're stretching it out. But moving back to the Daleks as a whole, I personally believe that the Daleks are representative of Doctor Who, in that you can't have Doctor Who without the Daleks. And
they're like the TARDIS.
Yeah, well, exactly. But this isn't just a case of like, well, if the Daleks weren't in Doctor Who, then Doctor Who wouldn't exist, right? Because the Daleks were arguably more popular than the show. I'm not talking about that. But you can literally map on the popularity of the show with the popularity of the Daleks. How the Daleks are viewed in pop culture mirrors exactly to how the show is mirrored in pop culture. So in the 80s, when the Daleks were viewed as a joke and like, oh, they can't climb stairs, that's when Doctor Who was viewed as a joke. Here, the Daleks are viewed as absent and kind of like, oh, we need a break from them. And the same thing is with Doctor Who. Every time someone says, oh, we need a break from the Daleks, I read that as, we need a break from Doctor Who. That's me, right? Personally.
And it's like, look, the Cybermen and Master, 100%. Like my whole point,
they're not actually as intrinsic to Doctor Who.
You can miss them, right? Like, like as much as I love the Cybermen, right? Probably on maybe equal level to the Daleks, maybe more, right? You can go, you can take a break for like how many ever years, and you can come back with the most amazing story, and that would catch you off guard, right? They're back finally. The Daleks kind of need to be there, right? They are so important to the show. And I think every Doctor needs to face at least one of those big three to make solidify them.
Was successful was because of the Daleks. I would argue that genuinely, and I would say that the reason the character of the Doctor in the revival is successful is because of the Daleks. Because if you take that Time War aspect out of the first 4 series, I mean, it's hollow. I think.
Well, could you imagine you replace the Daleks with the Cybermen? It wouldn't make you wouldn't. It just would never.
Was to replace them with the Toclophane. It wouldn't have worked. Right.
It's just awful. And the fact
we were just talking about the episode, right? Like, I love the Toclophane, right? But if they did go with the original plan before they secured the rights, that Rob Shearman's Dalek episode would be called Toclophane or whatever, and it would include them, that would be dog, right? You know what I mean? Like, that would just be
be awful. It wouldn't work, right? You would have that sense of like, oh my god, because even new fans know the Dalek. Everyone knows the Dalek. Like, and I don't want to be like, oh, everyone of course knows the Daleks. Like our little, British TV show. But, like, it's the biggest thing from the show. Bar maybe the police box, right, which is recognisable to even like Who fans. The Daleks and the Weeping Angels now are the biggest thing from the show. They are the thing that are parodied the most, the things that are everywhere in pop culture. Like, everyone has, like, copied the ideas of the Weeping Angels now. The Daleks, when you see a pepper pot with a gun, you know what I mean?
You think the Daleks.
And the fact they're not here is just... We had that one joke with Shooty with a fucking plunger. That was the closest he got to meeting a Dalek. Was that joke with a fucking plunger, which is insane.
He got so scammed, and the fact that in Unleashed he's got to peddle the I just got too old thing, right? They did that with Christopher Eccleston, and they did it again.
What, he's still in his 20s, alright, isn't he?
30, I think he's 32, right? He looks like he's in his 20s, right?
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. He looks so youthful, but he is actually, he's 32, right? And Millie Gibson is 20. Goddamn. I just looked it up. That's why I said that. But dang, right? The fact that they have the ghoul to make him say, "Oh, I'm so tired," right?
Yeah, I'm too old. My knees.
I mean, yeah, that's basically code for "Don't give me another leading role job because I can't hack it," right? It's so scummy, and I mean, the thing is that when in the behind the scenes, there's such a focus on kind of lying and airbrushing, it calls back to all of the controversies on Rusty Davies sets in the past. And as we've been theorizing, Belinda probably likely wasn't meant to be the companion for season 2. We've got these things where maybe Lux was meant to have Ruby in it, and thematically it fits more to have Ruby in it. And Belinda always feels kind of out of place and pushed to the side, right? And there's that rumor that Millie Gibson had that, not necessarily falling out, but that squabble.
Yeah.
On set, which is why her role was reduced, allegedly. We literally know nothing, but this is why them lying is so harmful, because if they can't be transparent and they constantly lie, then these tabloid rumors, which I should be able to just believe them when they dispel, right? I have no choice but to second guess and say, is that true? Because I know Rusty Davies sets in the past have had major problems, and it's not out of the question that a main primary actor or cast star had an issue and wanted a reduced role. That isn't out of the question. We've seen far worse than that, and we've seen real kind of like inappropriate behavior on those sets and real controversies and stuff like that. Not just him, right? And it's one of those things where it's like, you guys lying and not being transparent, it has genuine harmful effects. And the same with a lot of these creative decisions. It isn't just... This is the same with when the director of Joker 2 came out and said, oh yeah, but I managed to take all this money from the corporation, and yeah, my movie bombed, but Warner Brothers lost money, so that's good. It's like, that's not how that works. In this industry, it's not a zero-sum game. The money that's put into it impacts the future careers of everyone. So like set designer, VFX artists, all these people, costume design, everyone, right? And when you don't bring that back, and when you don't keep that going, people leave the industry. They lose their livelihoods, and it's genuinely harmful to a lot of people on the back end. To say, right, as I've seen some people do, it's like, oh, well, this hurt Disney. It doesn't hurt Disney. Disney just takes it out on all of their employees. It hurts the people, right?
And also with the Disney argument, right? Like, do you really think that this show, like, the money they give for this, do you think that this is really going to hurt them, of all things?
Yeah, it doesn't like, affect the bottom line in any way at all, right? And so I understand the kind of like, oh, well, we don't want Disney in the show, so we will dislike this no matter what, right? I didn't want Disney in the show, but I'm still going to give it a chance. And if it was good, I'm going to call it good, right? But at the same time, to act, right, it's like, well, if this fails, then it hurts the BBC, then it hurts Disney. It's like, well, no, if this fails, then it hurts the people on the ground. It hurts the people in the industry. The British industry, as I'm sure you know, is not in the best position at all at the moment. So a big flagship show like Doctor Who, if that succeeded, that would be better for everyone. That would be better for everyone. Right? And it failing is sad for everyone and affects people on an individual, personal level.
Yeah,
right?
And they also do realise, right, it's like from an audience perspective, if this succeeds, you're going to get a better fucking show as well. Exactly. If you're that selfish, it doesn't. There's so many. It's so stupid. And this era, it's so unfortunate because Ncuti Gatwa had so much potential. We've never had a Dalek in this era. Millie Gibson is amazing. I mean, I followed her work when she was working Coronation Street, and then when she jumped over to Doctor Who. And look, as much as I love Belinda, I think she's a great companion. Really loved her for the first half of the series before they fucking character assassinated her. Millie Gibson, I think, as Ruby Sunday, would have been amazing in those episodes, right? If that was the original plan, let's say. For her to be in Lux and all these episodes. The emotional, I'm
a big fan of Belinda. Like, I really am. And so it's kind of hard for me to say, was it Thanos snap her away, right? So I won't. But at the same time, right, like, I get it. And also, I don't want to act like I'm saying that those tabloid rumors are true. By the way,
Oh, definitely,
I'm just saying
definitely.
because they have been so dishonest with what they've said behind the scenes, it can't be ruled out because we know that they're willing to hide the truth blatantly to save face, to the point where they say this is always the plan. When we can see his hair change, right? We can see they've covered up his slit. Right? It's so shameless about it.
There's a lot more doubt there now, right? A lot more questions,
it is very much kind of like the handling of what happened with JNT, and I'm very interested to see all these interviews that come out in the next few years. Similarly to how even now we're still finding out stuff about those late 80s era and some of the stuff that happened in it with Nicola O'Brien and what she was saying, and it's like, my goodness, something happened here. And
something big happened here as well. It's not small, like, you know.
And they have not told anyone about it. And it really does. Maybe it's because like, I've got a kind of thing about always trying to at least tell the truth and all of that. But it makes it really hard to root for the show and not just delve into kind of pessimistic doomerism and moaning about all of these individual things when they insist on painting it over as if everything's happy fun time land. You know what I mean?
It's kind of like the commentary creator side of me, right? Kind of kicks in here, right? Because there's clearly something's happened here. Clearly, like a Who scandal, right?
Yes.
You know, something's happened here. And you know, there's going to be people at fault. There's going to be people who aren't at fault. People who are victims of this, right? There's something there. And it's so unfortunate, right? Not only from that perspective, but also from an audience perspective. Because I've also noted down, right, all of like the plot threads that probably will never get answered, right? So, you know, the Pantheon, the boss, right? Who in the episode got teased again. It's never going anywhere, ever.
Can't believe that.
You know, you've got Billie Piper. You've got Susan. This Belinda mystery, as we mentioned before, you know, putting her fucking other character up on the screen. Ruby, it's just in general.
Never says goodbye.
Yep, never says goodbye. Never faced any of the big three. 14 during the reality war.
Rogue.
Yeah, Rogue. That is oh god, I can't with it. Like, just so annoying. Because even if they did continue this, it wouldn't matter. You imagine Billie Piper rocking up and shaking Rogue's hat. He's like, oh, who the fuck's this? I want my gay best friend back. You know, you know. By generation inconsistencies, which just leave it there. Just fucking never bring it up again. Right?
You don't understand. In one of the videos that I'm working on right now, I'm talking about all the inconsistencies with by generation. They have legit changed it every single time it's been mentioned. They have changed how it works every single time. Even in the Devil's Chord, where they change it for 1 second, where Shutigawa says it split my soul in half. That's another explanation for it, and they've changed it again. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
And it goes against
so frustrating.
This episode goes against everything that they said before, which in turn was the basis of Shutigawa's character, which was that the 14th Doctor will eventually turn into the 15th Doctor, and he's gone through therapy because the 14th Doctor has, except that's not how that works, because they do actually split there, and the 14th Doctor will never become the 15th Doctor. So
many plot holes. And look, Doctor Who, right, always had its plot holes, right? Always had its like canon, like inconsistencies. But this is just so huge.
They even mentioned that here. The 15th Doctor says, "And that's how you got me." But that's not how by generation works. So that isn't how she got you. So the whole kind of core of that character and this idea of him being the emotional Doctor, the Doctor who's gone through therapy and all that, which is a whole different kind of worms. But right. All of that just hemorrhages away if you retcon that by generation change to make it something different to what it is. And I want to hear your thoughts on this, right? Because as someone who loves the 13th Doctor and actually did like that scene, right? And I do. And what I will say as a pro to Rusty Davies, congrats on somehow managing to make all of those reshoots like work as a scene and have like a emotional core, you know, to them. Right? And all of this stuff, sure, it's not seamless, like all of the reshoot stuff, but I think it does, you know, it does work on a level where it's not like, well, this is just incomprehensible, which is a massive plus considering how last minute it all was. But that scene with the 13th Doctor, doesn't it fit more for it to be the 14th Doctor, and then they refuse at the end, and then they turn it to the 16th Doctor? I mean,
It would have been great.
The 13th Doctor showing up makes no thematic sense, no relevance, no anything.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
the 14th Doctor showed up, yeah, they make a joke about it. Oh, he's always showing up. Yes, there'd be kind of part of me. It's like David Tennant back again. But if you're going to bring Billy Piper back, right? Like, I don't care about it at that point, right? It fits thematically and it wraps up everything.
Yeah.
Why is he the one who doesn't come back and not instead of the 13th Doctor? What do you think?
And there'd be a bigger thing behind. Yeah, no, I agree 100%, because then there'd be a bigger thing about bi-generation, right? The fact that, look, they've got to come back together, right? It's like a bit like a worm, right? When you cut a worm in two, then these, two separate, but they come back together, right? To fuse back into one, and it makes a lot more sense, because then you could explain as well that he's been pulled there because, Shooty Get will start to regenerate. It makes just 10 times more sense. Way more logical. As much as I love Jodie, and I think she was fantastic there, I was actually happy to see her. Very enjoyable. It would have made way more sense. And you can still even make that joke about Tennant, right? About how he's always showing up. It still would have landed. It still would have been funny. But then at that point as well, like, the thing with that is you just can't have Billy Piper come back, which I would be happy with. But could you imagine that? Like 5 minutes. So could you imagine? It's just awful. Like, the fact that you've had Jodie come back and then Billy Piper comes back 5 minutes later is just, it's insane to me. Jodie coming back, fine. Who cares?
I've ranted about this episode in this book again and again and again. There's so many kind of little things and big things, really big things, and also little things that I can kind of talk about and say, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this isn't how you do it by your standards, right? Because if you were going about it a different way, maybe I could run along with it. But I've listened to what you've said, and I've listened to what you said recently, and this goes against your own standards, and that's what I'm judging, right? But the thing that I find unacceptable is Billy Piper coming back as Doctor Who, and that is like a deal breaker. Everything else before, in every other part of Doctor Who, right? And I think that there are worse episodes than I do think Time of the Rani is a worse episode than the Reality War, right? I do. Like, as a story, if you watch them two back to back, and then you ask like 99 people out of 100 which one was better, I feel like everyone, and I definitely would say yes, the Reality War is definitely a better piece of media and television and everything. But that bit, Billy Piper, what it represents, just the idea and choice to do and everything, and the fact that it's all last minute and all of that, it's unacceptable for me. It's like a real thing. As I say, it broke me, right? It was just a deal breaker moment right at the last 5 seconds of the show. I suppose if you're going to do a deal breaker moment, that's the place to do it. But still, damn, it legit. Yeah, I mean, you saw I had a full character arc where I went into grief. A nuclear bomb landed. Yeah, right. I lost my mind. I started spiraling. I became a hermit. All of this stuff. It literally broke me because it's the one thing in Doctor Who where I'm like, that is unacceptable. And I know that Rusty Davies knows it's unacceptable. I know that he has those fan sensibilities that I do, right? Because if you asked him in 2008, oh, is Billy Piper going to be the next Doctor? He'd be like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, fuck off, mate.
Obviously, that's not what's going to happen. That's like, and that's why you don't let the typical fan in quotation marks run the show. Like the people who you know what I mean, right? Yeah. Those people who were like, oh, and what if Rory comes back? And
he's the master.
And it's like, we're bored about like the story there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What about anything of value and substance? Right, and that's why you don't let those types of people in charge. But I know Ross Davies isn't like that, so I just want to know what's going on in his head. When he does something like that, is it really just desperate? Where it's like, we are going to be cancelled. I have no other play, and it's like,
and as well, it's like, how can we go from how start of the series? Well, this is the strongest season of Doctor Who in years. This is amazing. I'm really enjoying it too. The show has imploded. I don't know how you go from that. And I don't know when you went into watching the episode. Had you seen the leaks that Billy Piper was going to be returning? I don't know.
I didn't think the leak. I saw comments on my YouTube channel, right? And I think I must have seen like a shitty article or something, right? Because I instantly dismissed as false, right? But so I got the worst of both worlds, where I was spoiled, but I didn't know that I'd been spoiled.
Yeah, well, like when I went in there to sit down,
in this episode leaked. So apparently,
yeah,
people
everything.
didn't even think the 13th Doctor was going to come out.
Well,
Come back,
fucking.
which threw me by surprise.
Well, the thing was, I sat down, right? I'm with my dad. He was like, "Have you seen about Billy Piper?" Yes, I've seen it. Of course, it's not gonna. So I'm sitting there with my fucking like mouth wide open, right? By the end of the fucking episode, that she's actually there. But like, not only that, right? I knew Jodie was coming back because everything had leaked. I knew the fugitive Doctor was coming back because everything had leaked. I knew that the Well, and I mean everyone, and that fucking look. I know we don't name and shame, right?
Knew that though.
Yeah, but that fucking we don't name and shame, right? But I'm gonna name and shame that Doctor Who film set guy, like the guy that follows them around. Like I can't remember his Twitter username, right? But the really one that like he made a post of like, oh look, oh like I you know we're all friends. I love these guys or whatever. That DW like underscore film guy, whatever.
Is it me?
No, not you. You're your fan. But
I don't know who you're talking about, but I assume because I think I saw what. I saw filming photos of Conrad, so that's the filming photos I saw that kind of.
Yeah, he leaked everything basically, like, and it just
spoils
it.
That was that bad. Knowing Conrad was a bad guy, I don't think that was that bad. But I think
that's not that bad.
So knowing about the Well, right, that was something where I'm like, well, this is all a theory, guys, right? Like, surely. And then later on, lo and behold, a few weeks ago, I found out no, it wasn't a theory. I was just spoiled, right? And with the Fugitive Doctor, I thought that was a theory as well. I think you can even go back to my review, and I'm like, oh, I think I got a comment where someone was like, I think someone's going to show up. So, oh, that would be interesting, right? And then it did happen. I was like, how the hell did you call that? Whoever that was in the comment section who called that, you're a real genius. They just read fucking leaks. I'm giving out props to people who cheated. So
much leaked.
And Billy Piper as well. I will say, I'm not going to name and shame. Actually, I won't. But there was someone who posted a big YouTube video called Billy Piper Will Be the 16th Doctor. And that was one of the things I saw that made me roll my eyes. Like, obviously, that's not going to happen. And it's like they just posted leaks. Like a week before the episode came out and totally spoiled me. Right? I can't imagine. If I'd known that the 13th Doctor was coming back, I probably wouldn't have liked the scene, weirdly enough. Right?
Well,
And I imagine that people knew that the Rani and Susan were going to be in the Interstellar Song Contest, which totally blew me by surprise. I even made a separate video of my reaction to that.
Susan caught me off guard. That was like the only one that I hadn't seen. Like everything else I got spoiled, but Susan I had no idea. So that was a huge jaw-dropping moment. Me,
oh my god, you called that it was the Rani. Yeah, like fucking year ago, bro. But as a joke.
Everyone knew, bro. Like what
was it?
You know, everyone had that thing. You know,
the Rani. I'm pretty sure even like Harbo Holmes made a video like 2 years ago saying that Mrs. Flood is going to be the Rani, right? Like it was one of those things where it was. Everyone predicted it, but it was too dumb to actually be true, and then it was actually true.
It was a joke, again, right? Well, you know what I mean?
If I'd known, right, like exactly the way it was going to play out, then I wouldn't have been able to even enjoy that bit in the Interstellar Song Contest, right? But because I was caught off guard, I was able to enjoy it more, right? And I think that's kind of the case with me in all of this stuff, where if I was taken off guard, which is the way that it's meant to be done, right? They make it with the intention that you won't know what it is going in, right? Then I think a lot of it works, even in the reality war. Debatable. Obviously, the Billy Piper thing doesn't work. But like the 13th Doctor thing, I didn't know that was going to happen, and I think that worked. Whereas if I had known it was going to happen, I don't think it would have worked, right? But at the same time, it kind of shows a basic underlying flaw in the storytelling, and that it's relying purely on shock value on things that are probably going to leak, right?
Yeah.
So how much of the Well is attributed to that shock value plot twist? Because I don't know, I was kind of waiting for a lot of that episode, will the theory be confirmed or not? Whereas people who hadn't known any of that probably would have gotten a better viewing experience than I had.
I think if you're like, you know, on Doctor Who Twitter, right, that you basically knew that episode, right, is going to be a midnight sequel. So I'm just waiting for the penny to drop.
Thankfully, I wasn't fully. The most I've been on Twitter was the past 3 weeks, which coincidentally are the least popular 3 episodes of all time. Right? And now I'm done. I'm done with it. Yeah. Right? Even as someone who disliked it, I think there's too much toxicity there. The thing was that there's too much toxicity from the people who dislike it as someone who dislikes it, and from the people who like it as well. I've seen people who are very close to the official source being incredibly childish on Twitter, and I just think I want no part in this. People who I've really liked and respected, not any YouTubers or any of that, but like people who are involved in the fandom who I've liked and respected before. I've seen them act in really bad ways, and I've seen people who, you know, even before a few weeks ago, I was finding their tweets, finding people saying, you know, personal judgments on the cast and crew and all that. And I was just like, I can't with this place. I gotta go.
Yeah, it's really toxic. And
it is unbelievable. And I know that this has been a rant which in a way can be interpreted as toxic, but I'd never gone as far out to... I mean, people were saying, oh, does Rusty Davies has dementia? Get the fuck out of his business, man. Jesus Christ. Holy shit. Right? People getting... I don't know if you saw that. That was one that got like 1,000...
Yeah, there's just a lot.
Okay, I didn't like the episode
as well. Wishing him dead as well. Like,
yeah, oh my god.
It's just outrageous.
Unacceptable stuff. And I understand being mad or sad, right? Like, I'm in grief for Doctor Who, right? But holy shit, some people get a bit overexcited. Right? And I understand doing that for entertainment's sake, but a lot of this steps way over the line, and that's why I've got to just take a gap from Twitter. I'm basically off it entirely now. I stayed on to DMU and that's it.
Like, I went onto Instagram, right, when I saw the like Billy Piper thing, and I went, oh, fuck off, mate, and put some laughing faces, right? Most are sad, right? Because it's like, you know, you're not going to make any horrible personal comments about him, right? You're just going to go, oh, fuck off. Like, what is this, right?
Exactly. And there's like, such a difference between criticism, even, right, if someone wants to say hostile criticism, and like abject toxicity, where you cast personal and moral judgments on people for their opinions.
Like, you've got glasses. Oh, I bet you didn't even read your own script. Like, you know, there's just so much of that crap, you know.
And that's
like as well,
my problem. With
so
fandom,
toxic.
not actually Doctor Who fandom, but just fandom in general.
Star Wars fandom, everything, you know.
Yeah, when it gets to moral grandstanding, and it's like, if you, as Star Wars, if you like/dislike The Last Jedi, you're a bad person or you're a stupid person, right? And I remember there was, I'm going to name and shame this guy because he doesn't care, right? Mauler, right? He made his video on The Last Jedi where he said, you could like The Last Jedi, but objectively you would be very stupid to do so. And it's like, stop being so fucking full of yourself, man. And he pulled up all of like these reaction videos of like people enjoying Star Wars, and it's like, get the fuck out of their business, you asshole, right? If they liked it, just let them like it, man. They're on a totally different plane to you, right?
Yeah.
And naturally the inverse is true. Like, if someone disliked The Last Jedi and they went to Mauler and said, look at this guy's face, he's got such a weird nose or something. I don't know what he looks like, but I'm just saying, like, as an example, right?
Yeah.
That would also be bad too. And that's the problem with fandom, is when people bring in like physical and mental, and people saying like, oh, Rusty Davies is a misogynist or all of this. It's like, damn, bro, right? Like, it's not that serious. As someone who does take it seriously, moral judgments and all that is where I draw the line.
And but by the way, just to correct myself on like the guy I was naming and shaming, his name is set_DW, right? Bane of my life, bane of my fucking life. Look, probably a nice guy, right? On Twitter, cunt. I'm gonna be real.
No, that's the problem with Twitter. Now, this is serious, and this is like my main point here, right? And this is actually where I'm getting off. Is getting off Twitter. You can like someone in real life, and you can like them a hell of a lot, and then you'll look at their Twitter and you'll be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Exactly.
Right? And that's why it's so toxic to me, and that's why I want to get off, right?
Exactly.
Even if, right, as someone who disliked the episode, right, I see a lot of people agreeing with me. To me, it doesn't matter if people agree with me if they do it in like a really dickish way. You know what I mean? Like if someone says my point, right, like underlying point, but they say it in the worst possible way possible, in a way that no one can disagree with, I actually find that even more annoying than if someone were to just disagree. You know what I mean?
No, definitely. And I think going back to like the whole toxic fan thing and like, you know, insults, something that I've noticed the past month, and like this has always been a thing, but I think this year it's got to a ridiculous level where I'm starting to see it on my main account. The amount of Tharies hate, man. It's just insane.
Oh my goodness.
And going after him.
It's like, oh, he was in the show. I thought it was amazing that he was in the show, right? And I think that's like something to be celebrated. And then you see people, I don't even want to repeat some of the stuff they were saying. Like,
oh, God, it's disgusting.
It's just, it's so mean-spirited and awful.
And making fun of him, like genuinely making fun of his appearance. And it's like, man, come on.
Yeah, like
It's just
real bastards. That's something that pissed me off, right? And I saw one of those tweets. I messaged him, DM'd him, and said, "Man, I'm so sorry that you've got to deal with it." And he said, "I've had to deal with this for 3 years, and that's one of the most I've got to get off this site, bro." Right?
well, yeah,
And it's also a thing where it's like glass houses, man. All these people, right, who insult him and insult anyone, do all of that stuff. It can so easily turn back around on you in like a second. Have some perspective, like have some clarity, self-awareness of what you're doing and how like the actions that you're taking. It's the hypocrisy and dishonesty of it is what really takes it out, right? And right, I understand having criticism of the show, but this is what I think separates actually, ironically, YouTube from Twitter, and why I prefer YouTube is that you'll see people being really harsh on YouTube, but I don't think that it goes that step beyond on Twitter. I mean, people don't like dox other people on YouTube. Well, rarely, especially not in Doctor Who. You've got like a drama channel, right? So I'm sure you've seen people dox people on YouTube before, but not in like our fandom. Like barely in like Star Wars fandom on YouTube. On Twitter,
exactly,
you will see that shit.
Well, and that's what I mean as well, is like the Doctor Who fandom on Twitter, it's very much, and like with a lot, like not gonna like, actually I won't name and shame this guy, but like with the YouTube scene, it's really like really relaxed, right? Of course you've got your bowl streaks and you know all your other like
but he's
horrible
like,
people.
He's like the bogeyman, like we all don't like that guy.
But like even the toxicity and like how far and how extreme you go with your opinions. What was his name? Davies or whatever his name is. That like Davies.
I don't want to talk about that guy.
Yeah, I'll just for your probably a nice guy, but like it's just got to like an outrageous point, where it's like you kind of got to settle down at the end of the day and go, this is a show. Like we're talking about age. Like I love the show. It's part of my life, right? Huge part of my life.
I complained about it. You can go rewind in this video and you can hear me ranting about the show, but.
It's a show.
Moving away from Davies and all that, I'm also back to Bolstrike, right? Bolstrike, in my opinion, is the tragedy of fandom, because if you go back to his old videos, right, people are gonna hate me for saying this. A lot of his old videos are actually kind of sweet. He's doing like these DVD unboxing review videos, and you can go back to his first opinions on The Last Jedi and the Jodie Whittaker era, and he was like, oh, it's not really for me, but yeah, I could see why people liked it. The Last Jedi had a few good bits, but I didn't really like it. Oh, Jodie Whittaker, she's been cast. Yeah, I don't know about a female Doctor, but I'll give it a chance. It's like, oh, this is like a reasonable guy. And then you see like the paycheck hit after the Timeless Child hate video, and then it's just like, oh my goodness, I can have a career doing this.
Well, that's what I mean. With a lot of these people, it's performative, completely, entirely performative.
To be fair, this is what gets clicked. Like full exaggerate, like full hyperbolized, like end game level of that. I'm not saying everyone who is like that is like on that level. But that's like the problem with fandom, and that's the real dark pits of YouTube. But on Twitter, that's like everywhere. You know what I mean?
That is everywhere. Like, and we're lucky with our like the Doctor Who fandom, in the sense that like look at a fandom like Star Wars. The past month with that fucking Andor scene,
Technoblade. Fucking Minecraft fandom.
Yeah,
I love Minecraft. Oh my god! I didn't know the fandom had gunners like that.
Yeah, insane.
And a father whose child is deceased.
It's insane.
Like what the fuck?
That's why I count myself like kind of like I guess I've got like a unique perspective, in the sense of like I like with all these other communities, even Star Wars, right, with Theory and all these other people the past few months. It's been really bad, and like some of the stuff they said is disgusting. But then like
I don't really know a lot of that stuff, but I peep into your videos, and that with that Technoblade. So your Technoblade video blew up, so that was like a really big video, right? And I watched that, and some of the stuff people were saying there is like, damn, okay, maybe I am lucky to be in the Doctor Who fandom. But I think as well as fandom, so yeah, there's the fandom problem, but there's the fandom Twitter problem, which is just the same problem but compounded, right? And I actually think that Doctor Who's problem, linking this all the way back to the reality war, is that it's too much in the fandom. All this Rani and Omega stuff, all of it is way too fandomized, Like, it's too much trying to appeal to the worst part of the audience. The kids who are watching, they have no idea who Omega is, no idea who Rani is, all of this stuff. That's my issue with this show, tying everything back in one entire bow. Did you mute yourself, by the way? I ranted on for too long. I broke him as well.
Yeah.
No, it's just, he's back.
Yeah, I'm back. It's fine. But yeah, I mean, like again,
I'm
I was
actually
saying
proud
about
of
like
myself. I tied everything in a whole bow there, all of it, and
yeah,
everything is all emblematic of the same problem, which is obsession with the past. And fandom has a problem because it's obsessed with the past, and the show has a
yep,
problem because it's obsessed with the past. And
and
in
it's such
general,
a shame.
I'm just kind of done with the past, right?
Yep,
And I love Doctor Who, and the reason I love Doctor Who, among a million things, but it's because it can be new and it can be the future. And there's all these interviews of Rusty Davies in 2023, 2024, 2025 saying, this is the future, this is the future, this is the future. And then in his finale, he's like, actually, let's go 40 years in the past, baby. And it's like, man, you're doing stuff that even you don't want to do, right? You're doing sequels to episodes that you
exactly.
have called out and said that you don't like, right? And I just think, let's move to the future.
And yeah,
Let's move on with all of that. And I think all of those problems with the episode that I don't think are invalid at all. And if someone came and said, here's a problem with the episode, I wouldn't say, I'm high and mighty above you, because actually that's not the real issue. It is an issue. It's a real issue. But in my opinion, I'd be able to look over all of that if they'd gone with the true kind of the integrity route, and they went with that original ending rather than the reshoots. And they went out, they say, okay, we're not going to be able to fully answer any of these cliffhangers, but in expanded media, in novels and all of that, these questions will be answered, right? Rather than the easy in quotation, pathetic way out of just saying, do you remember Billy Piper?
Look at this person you haven't seen in 20 years. Like, look at them. Exactly. Look at them now.
And it sours the whole episode. It makes the whole thing just miserable for me because of what it represents and because the show is ending. It's like the double, triple whammy of all of it. And the fact that everyone online, I said this in my video, this episode sets the tone for all of the conversations, including the one that we're kind of having now. Of course, this is not as negative as the stuff I'm talking about, but it is a negative conversation. And online, the tone is just gone, it's just spiraled into abject sadness and depression. And it's like,
well, the one person I've seen that's happy, right, and I love him for this, right, great guy, like confused dad post, mate, the radiating of positivity, right?
His fan films are brilliant.
He's great, like, and that's great, and like, it all comes back to like what you were saying as well, and like what I was saying about performativity, right? All of these, like the fandom, like the showrun, like, everything comes down to this performativity, and it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate, from a fandom level to the show level. And I mean, I've got to give a shout out to. I mean, they don't need a fucking shout out, but like the review of Death, right, with like Batman March, right?
They're great. I love them.
Great. Their review, right? Incredibly, like, you know, so many jokes, right? Like, you know, towing the line or whatever. It's great. It's great stuff. Not malicious, right? It's funny. It's great. That's how you critique a piece of media, right? If you want to be like making jokes and going after it, right? That's how you do it. Like great stuff, and that's what we need more of within, like, you know, the Doctor Who like fandom and stuff, because like the show's in like a horrible state as it is, right? The people that talk about the show shouldn't be in also a horrible state, right? This should be like, you know, decently sturdy, not like, you know, for unfortunately for some people that are stooping to like the level of like people like you know, Ballstricken or whoever else, right? So it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. I feel like a lot of people have taken this opportunity to go into that type of content, and go into those type of opinions, because currently that's doing really well. Like, there are tweets with thousands and thousands of likes, which I haven't really seen with Doctor Who in quite a while. Just shitting on the show entirely. I mean, I'm getting TikToks recommended with tens of thousands of likes, just ripping the show like in two, but like really maliciously, and not a constructive way.
One that had 100,000 likes, and it wasn't like actually that toxic, but it was basically saying this would be like if in Star Wars Darth Vader came back in episode 9, he took his helmet off and it was Mace Windu, right? Like, a funny tweet, but it's like the fact that I mean, the video got 15 million views, and it doesn't seem like anyone likes it, and the people that do like it are in a state of flux, because the BBC can just retcon it and say, oh, she wasn't actually the Doctor either way, so even they're losing. So it just feels I personally feel completely deflated, because I've loved this era and I'm actually still going to defend it, and I'm still going to defend all the cast and crew who did quite an amazing job for the past three, I don't know how long they've been working on the show, but for however long they've been doing amazing.
It's such a shame.
But it does feel like it ends out on a whimper, and that sets the tone for all of the conversations, and all the conversations are miserable. It's like a real defeat moment.
Yeah.
And I just hope that hopefully after this, I don't know, Empire Strikes Back moment, whatever, hopefully sooner rather than later there'll be a Return of the Jedi, but I don't know how long we're going to be waiting in the dark times.
At least I can imagine, unless they decide to pull like a fucking special episode out their arse, right? I know they're working on like another project or whatever, something, right? Whatever that could be. Yeah. But realistically, it's gonna be like 2 years at least, right? Realistically,
I think we're looking at 5 at least. I think.
Yeah, like two is being generous. You know what I mean? Like if everything goes fine from this point on, if they go, look, we'll do it again. We'll do another episode.
I would say 2 years if they'd released a press release now, but for the fact that they haven't, and the fact that they're kind of willing to just let it fade into obscurity, shows
the next month or so will very much show the intention and what's going to happen, right? If there's nothing, you can pretty much guarantee that, you know, we're kind of in a really bad position.
Why would they not say it immediately after the episode comes out, right? Like, keep in mind what happened. So the most similar situation to this is what happened with Power of the Doctor, right? Where after the, I mean, you know this, right? The original idea of Power of the Doctor was that it was just going to end with Jodie regenerating and it'd be an open-ended regeneration, right? And then they come in and they make the 14th Doctor David Tennant. You best believe that when that happened, there were news articles out the same day, interviews out the same day, promo stills, promo images. There was even it was like a 15-second teaser for what was going to happen next, right? And I'm not asking for like an actual teaser, but I am asking if they do intend on keeping going, like a promo still of Billy Piper as the Doctor in Shooty Gatwa's clothes, like an interview, a confirmation that Billy Piper is the 16th Doctor. Like not a lot here, just words on paper. As a Doctor Who historian here, right? When I make my eventual not so brief explanation of Doctor Who that's 24 hours long and I get to this point, I have to end off by saying, and then Billy Piper was cast as the Doctor, or maybe the end, right?
Yeah, well, the next one's going to be integral, right? Maybe they're waiting for maybe or whatever. So much.
Maybe they're waiting for the Sea Devil spin-off, which we don't know when that's coming out. Yeah,
it's rumored. What is it? November, December, early next year, or something like that. Something like happening, right? Which we're hopefully going to release that soon, because at least something's happening, right? They're on the move there. But look, I said, look, if nothing's said in the next month or so, right, where we get no word or anything, you know, probably not a good sign. But like one last thing as well, just like going through my bullet points as well, is we're getting through Doctors really quickly, right?
Oh my god!
How many we've had the past few years, right? We've had Whittaker, we've had then Tennant come back, we've had Shooty, and now we've got a potential 4th.
I think they should just reset it back to new First Doctor. I know that's sacrilege, but they've got to at this point. We're on, what is it?
4.
The 16th. If they don't reset, that means they've got to start their next reboot with the 17th Doctor. That's bullshit, right? Just start again at new First Doctor.
Like, I just, I don't know how you do it. And
so
like 4 Doctors,
selfish.
bro.
To end on Billy Piper being the Doctor. It's such a selfish decision.
Possibly being the 4th Doctor in the past, like 5 odd years? It's insane.
Yeah, it's such a selfish decision because if there isn't a next episode and then new people want to come in, it puts them in like a stranglehold. And then to start on 17. The fact that 14 was 3 episodes, 15 is 18 episodes, 16 is 0 episodes. Like, stop with this dilution, man, of what it means to be an incarnation of the Doctor. Because I don't know if you saw this, I'm posting in the Discord server. There was a rumor yesterday that the next specials, if they do them, they're going to have a new Doctor every special.
I'd kill myself.
And it's like, what's the point? The thing that a Doctor's casting is a promise that you'll make them an era. Right, that's what that casting is. Because if the casting is just words on paper, then it's meaningless. And Billy Piper's casting is less than words on paper. So what does that say about that? Dang, I've never felt more negative towards Doctor Who than I ever have been.
Yeah.
Because I am without hope. I have no hope that there will be another episode at all. And the fact that I've just been kind of left in the dark. I've been holding Mr. T. Davies' hand, right, as he's led me through this abyss, right? It started in a beautiful jungle, and he was like, there's gonna be new stuff, a new Doctor Who yearly. And then after the not so big success of series 1, it led me through a dark forest in series 2. And then after the reality war, it just flung me off a cliff.
Yeah, well,
and I'm
look at
lost
this way as
and
well,
alone
right?
and sad.
From Eccleston to Capaldi, there was four Doctors, right? We've had that in 5 years. It just doesn't bear thinking about. I don't know how we've had that. I don't know how that has happened. Like, it's insane.
On the pro side of Chibnall, the Jodie Whittaker Doctor is the longest running in real time of the modern Doctors. So he did not contribute to that dilution. Right?
Yeah, look, he did good. Jodie and Tom right up there, right? Like, it's great. But you know, the after her, then you know, it's just gone to shit. It's just unfortunate.
They just like throw Regeneration.
And it's lost its meaning. It's lost its meaning.
It's literally the late 80s era again. It literally is. When Colin Baker isn't doing so well, we generate him again. It's like, okay.
Well, like, this goes back. I think I made a video about this. Maybe I didn't. I think I did. About, like, Regeneration, right? How it just feels worthless, nothingness. I remember sitting there, like, I wasn't like a Capaldi fan as big as I am now. I'm a huge, like, he's my favorite Doctor, right? But at the time, I did not like him, right? So I was kind of happy when he went. You know, I was a bit younger, I was cheering or whatever. But I felt something still, right? It was special. You know, you sit down. I remember it. I remember where I was when he regenerated. You know, because of Regeneration, a big deal, right? The previous one to that, if I'm not mistaken, was Matt Smith, right? Like, in terms of, like, on-screen regenerations. That is huge. Like, and the one before that was, of course, we had, like, John Hurt into Eccleston. But, you know, that didn't lessen it to me because I felt like that was a bridge closed, right? That was something that, you know...
And the Eighth Doctor's one, I thought was really powerful because that was so many years in the making. You know what I mean?
And those are short. They're not actual episodes, right? They're not actual, like... They're filling in gaps for previous Doctors or previous eras. We're not, like, going forward. Like, Matt Smith didn't then regenerate into Capaldi, who then regenerated immediately into Whittaker, and, you know, like, that was fine. And that was impactful, and Regeneration used to mean something. Now it doesn't. I don't give a shit. And it's unfortunate because that used to be, like, the biggest thing ever, right? They're regenerating this year. Huge. Fucking Gatwa could have regenerated 2 episodes, like, into his era. Like that's practically what we've done here. Is that the next Doctor can regenerate, you know, how many episodes have I had? 4 gone for a Regeneration, and they're not really working. It's absurd.
It's just the most depressing for me because I was such a champion of this era, and then it falls into the pitfalls that we all were kind of worried it could, but we have faith that it won't just, you know. Well, I feel like I've said basically all I can. I had my fires in me, my coals were burning, and now they've all retreated down to embers.
Yeah, definitely. And, like, I think the last thing I'll say on this is, I think 5 months ago I made a video, like, Doctor Who's Disney era a retrospective, right? The amount of comments like, too early, it's too early, he's got ages yet, this era's not over. It's 5 months. I think I got pretty close to the mark where a retrospective would be needed. I mean, I've already uploaded the 15th Doctor retrospective. And, you know, like, that was basically less than about 5 months between that and that. It's insane. And people were saying too early.
The retrospective, because I don't actually know what the kind of theme and bridge for this Doctor really was, because his ending calls back to Joy to the World, which was rather late in his run, feels like, relatively.
And right? In my opinion, look, I hope people enjoyed the episode, but I fucking hate it.
I don't hate Joy to the World, but I do think that it's definitely one of his worst. Yeah. Right. In the Disney era, it's one of the least remarkable and one of the kind of most obviously flawed because of just the budgetary issues.
And she floats off into the sky.
Yes, oh goodness. But I like how they pitch this Disney era. New budgets. And then very quickly they had to pivot back to realizing, oh, we can't do these big budgets. I don't know if you noticed, but majority of episodes in season 2 they start like grand, wide open space, and then they quickly devolve into one room. So the Robot Revolution is set in 3 rooms, 2 of which are the same room repackaged, right? Lux takes place entirely in the cinema and a white void, right? The world takes place entirely in that room. The story in the engine takes place in the barbershop. The Interstellar Song Contest, despite being the most expensive episode of Doctor Who ever, mostly takes place in studio sets.
And I don't see the price in
same
there.
corridor.
I just don't know what they spent on.
I think it's just that. I think it's just that one shot. I mean, I can't really, unless if that isn't the case, and I have no idea, right? Because it's literally one of the only entirely studio-bound episodes of the show, because Boom of this era of the show, because Boom was before this, but that had a little bit that was shot outside, right? So this is technically the only one that's entirely shot within studio, which should be cheaper, but somehow it skyrocketed and ballooned to the most. And then Joy to the World. I mean, I don't know if you know the behind the scenes, but that whole subplot with Anita had to be added because Stephen Moffat wanted to do more and they didn't have the money.
Yeah.
So it's like, my goodness.
And it's the best bit of the episode. And like, it goes back to what you're saying, right?
That's what the whole episode should have been, right? Realistically.
Yeah. It is like, you know, when Doctor Who is like stripped down to its core, right? You got a couple of like men and women Daleks, right? Fucking piloting them, right? On a cheap budget, some styrofoam weeping angels, and like fucking like 2p, right? That's when the show's good. When you're in one room. Literally, Lux, right? You're in that cinema, amazing. I made probably the best episode. Like, it was one of my favorites in ages.
Very well directed.
That and The Well back to back. You know,
very
just
strong.
Amazing.
I mean, the thing is with me is I'm not saying that it's wrong that happens, because those episodes are all good. I mean, the story in the engine, my goodness, I love that one.
Yeah.
But the fact that they were all like, the budget's going to be massive, the budget's going to be massive, it just makes you wonder when you do watch those episodes, why did you even say that? If you said the budget is not actually that large, then I would kind of be championing you. I'll be like, hell yeah, because now you see a bunch of people saying, as you did, and rightfully so, because they've been championing this budget so much. Maybe we should just reduce the budget. Maybe Doctor Who is better off with a smaller budget, right? But I'm sure they're looking at that stuff saying, but our budget is actually quite small anyway. We can do any of the stuff we want to, right? But because they've been talking about how good their budget is, that's the thing everyone's looking at as the reason, as the thing to slash, as the thing to get back. So they've put themselves in the corner.
And that's what people are saying. Well, look, if you got such a fucking big budget, then make more fucking episodes instead of putting it towards these CGI and all this other stuff. You know, if this is how big your budget is and how, you know,
they walk themselves into so many rapes.
I mean, I think like the best thing about the budget, right, and like this brand new budget they've had or whatever, I will give them is Empire of Death. That episode is just, it looks amazing. Like Sutek looks incredible.
The Sutek is great.
Just like that's what I give them, right? Sutek is just he gets so much hate, and like I understand it, but like deep down I just don't get it, right? Like I understand it, I get it, but just deep down I love that episode so much. Like I've got it as probably I've got like a ranking of them.
Is that your most underrated episode of all time?
It's probably like 100%.
That's fair enough. I mean, I like that one.
It's great. I mean, I've got it. I've got it really high. For like the best of the year, I've got The Well, then I've got Lux, then I've got Legend of Ruby Sunday and Empire of Death. It's so high up there for me, and I don't know why. Right? Like I didn't have like an intrinsic like connection to Sutek. Right? He was great. I loved him. Right? In Classic Who. I've got all the little figurines and dolls with him. Right? Great. But I didn't like actually like, you know, if he came back or not, I wasn't fussed. But those episodes, just I think it's something about them that takes me back to like watching like older Doctor Who. Like I don't know, it's just that vibe. It gives to me like 2007, 2008 Doctor Who, which I don't know is a good thing or a negative thing or whatever.
I think that's
it's very much got that vibe.
Those feelings should be celebrated. I do think the positivity in Doctor Who should be celebrated, but I think that it shouldn't be necessarily like, well, because we have to be positive, we should drown out all the negativity.
Yeah.
I think it's just good to have a balance and be honest with those feelings and feel like you can be honest with those feelings. And so that's why I think it's brilliant in discussion where we're criticizing this era of the show and a lot of the real big creative decisions, especially the ones made at the last minute, to say, we're on your side, right? Like, we liked a lot of the stuff that you did, and we've stuck up against a tidal wave of negative comments. I mean, you like Empire of Death. I'm sure that you've seen your fair share of kind of hate comment for that opinion,
right?
Right?
It's insane. Yeah, huge amount of just absolute bombardment of hate comments. That and like the horrifically racist stuff, which of course you're gonna get.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like
Oh
it's
my
just
goodness,
you
so
know,
much. If I
like
go
especially
to my
recently,
channel right now, what's the fourth comment? Right, this one's just so weird. It's a comment on my channel post that just says he's black. What the fuck does that mean? Thick.
Yeah, I've
Asshole.
just opened up Studio 1 hour ago. Died when Capaldi left. It's just
Yeah, all this stuff,
it's
man.
an which, by the way, right? I was one of those guys. I made a video, or not one of those like those guys. Let me fucking clarify that now.
No, I know what you mean.
I made a video like, what if Doctor Who ended here, right? And it fucking pissed me off because me and Harbo dropped it basically days within each other.
Yeah.
But like the whole idea of that being a great like finale point. So I get it if you actually explain it, but it just comes off as such a hateful like thing of like, yeah, I think it should have ended here because she's a woman and he's black. I don't like that. Well, like I get it more if you sat there and explained it. You
can obviously kind of tell when people are meaning that.
Yeah.
And so I know we don't, but I also drastically hope that we never come across as that, because our conversations are always in the best of faith and always just to try and make Doctor Who succeed. I think actually criticism videos on YouTube are so good and helpful to the environment of the show, because people will watch them, and then even if they don't like directly, like the criticism that applies to one episode doesn't directly apply to another, if they were to then create something that's not even Doctor Who, they will take those core things of being an audience member and they will transform that into something good further down the line. And that's why I think criticism is good, not just even if the person who made the project didn't hear any of the criticism, that criticism is still good and useful because it will impact the audience who listened to the criticism of something else. In my opinion, that's just me.
And just to end this all on a huge positive conversation.
Yes.
I've got to say, Murray Gold's music the past couple of it's been amazing.
Rani theme.
Yeah, oh god, everything's been great. Shooty Gat was theme, and I was re-listening to like his darker theme in Dot and Bubble, and that's amazing. All of his music is amazing, and the repeat. I think the only one I don't like is the unit one, because it puts in Shepherd's Boy. Yeah, and that's one of my favorite songs. I mean, it's one of my most popular videos going over it. I love that track. So I think that's the only thing I hate, or dislike. Sorry. Where everything else amazing. I mean, what is it? They replayed for the Reality War the music in the Doctor Falls and his Regeneration, right? Like just before. Yeah, and that's amazing. I love the music, and a lot of people said it wasn't earned, it wasn't deserved, but incredibly emotional. Like you play the music and it's just God, because I mean those are like some of my favorite stretch of episodes. And hearing that music, it's just the music of this era has been amazing. And it's probably been the most consistent like thing about this era is the music. I think it's been consistently good. Bar the unit theme, I can't point to anywhere I'm like I don't particularly like that, or I've got like disagreements with that. Everything else I've really enjoyed. It's really made those episodes like Lux and like hearing, like bringing back older music at certain times. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, he keeps bringing back his older music. He keeps bringing back his best hits. But if you actually listen to it, of course, at times he has. But like, if you listen to throughout the show, he did that all the time. It's just now because everyone's so hyper negative that people are pointing it out. But every single time he's brought back these older tracks, by Shepherd's Boy and the unit theme, it's really worked, and it's really added to those scenes, and made them something that maybe without them they wouldn't necessarily be, or like have elevated them. The music of this era has been great, and I'd be really sad if the show does continue and Murray isn't there. Look, of course, get like a brand new talent, right? Somebody who maybe hasn't done a lot, right, but is really good, right? Somebody who's underrated. But I'd be a bit sad if Murray left as well, because he just adds so much. His music's just been amazing in this era.
It's just been so good. I mean, I think that even still, even after all this, there was a lot of positive in this era, and I do think that even though we started very negative, I think this conversation has definitely been really positive.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's so much positive stuff. I mean, for a lot of it, we spoke about Empire of Death, or there's so much positive within this era, so much to talk about, so much to celebrate. And ultimately, it's just had I'm going to say they've shafted Shooty, right? Ultimately, in the end, in the final stretch, and And it's so unfortunate because could you imagine a run where, like, of course, the middling episodes, but like the reality war didn't end that way, and it was just a mid episode. And then season 3, you had the arc with Susan, and most likely the Daleks appear. And you know, you look at this era of like, yeah, there were some mid episodes and maybe some bad ones here and there, but consistently there have been some great episodes across all these series. But we're kind of left with this sour taste on our mouth. It's like, well, the last 3 episodes have been kind of middling. Maybe bar Wishworld. I think Wishworld was fine. It's just a okay episode.
Yeah.
But we've left this really sour taste in our mouth. That, like, looking back, and this was like the main point of my retrospective, because he kind of doesn't have a complete or finished arc. It's not like Christopher Eccleston, where there's a clear point, right? Even though I'd have loved him to have more, there's like, you know, I'm satisfied with what we got there. Where here, looking back at his episodes and like knowing what we know now, with some of these arcs not getting sorted, like rewatching, like, you know, Rogue's episode, knowing that, you know, that will never get solved, that will never get sorted. It's so, like, the episodes are good, they're solid, they're great episodes and they're fun, but because of the stuff that we know now and that they go nowhere, it's unfortunate looking back and trying to rewatch those episodes, because we ultimately know that those arcs, although, like, you know, realistically they should have gone somewhere, they won't. Which is, I think, in my opinion, and of course I said about ending on a positive note, which I will spin this. It's kind of tainted it a little bit for me, but it's been amazing. It's been a great, like, run of episodes and stuff. Series 2, Series 1, in my opinion, had a great finale. But it's just unfortunate looking back that some of those have maybe been tainted by how we've actually ended off his era.
Yeah. I don't really have any more to say. I agree.
Yeah, it's just ultimately it's unfortunate, really unfortunate. I think the biggest thing for me, like in terms of like plot threads, bar the Pantheon, is Susan, because like realistically, when are we going to get another opportunity to do that? That's really sad, you know.
I love Shiragawa.
Yeah, he's great.
It's one of those things where I just wish there were more. I do. Even after ranting and raving, if they announced tomorrow, right, new Doctor Who confirmed, I would be back on the train. I would be. I just want more, preferably without Billy Piper. No offense, but no. But I do want more Doctor Who, and a lot of 100%. My negative feelings and a lot of the ranting, admitted ranting of that episode, The Reality War, which I can still do, right? But a lot of it comes from the grief of just losing my favorite show, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In that, I'm not saying for guaranteed. I'm just saying highly likely, to the point where I choose to believe it.
Yeah. I think for me, a lot of it is just like how inconsistent has been. Right? I think every Doctor, and of course some have been shafted, like poor Colin Baker, right? Fucking falling off his like exercise bike, poor fucker, right? Like, you know, of course others have been shafted, but like in New Who, right? I think every Doctor's had their arcs, right? Even Whittaker, right? Who everyone unfairly shat on as an actress and as the Doctor, had her arc, right? Like, she got the fob watch. Could you imagine if that never went anywhere? Like, she never got that fob watch, even whatever she decides to do with it next, right? That never went anywhere. That never happened. Tech Tayu never happened, right? You know, Capaldi never reaches that point, right? His hair just stops growing out randomly, right? You'd be devastated. Like Christopher Eccleston never like develops as a Doctor, right? It'd be awful. Tennant never like reaches the point where he does, right? With the Nox.
Regenerates in the Empty Child episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Regenerates in School Reunion.
Yeah.
Matt Smith regenerates in Night Terrors.
Yeah.
Peter Capaldi, you know, regenerates in Kill the Moon. Stuff like that. It's like, what?
Well, could you imagine, right? I think this is like I think probably one of the better examples is. Could you imagine if the 11th Doctor never made it to Trenzalore, the thing from Jump? That's how I feel about the Pantheon, because that is the thing from his Jump. He regenerated, like, or bi-generated, right in front of the Toymaker. That was his jump on, was the Pantheon, and it's ultimately gone nowhere. It's like if there was never a conclusion to the Silence arc or Trenzalore or anything with 11, you'd feel just hugely dissatisfied. And then that's what I feel, unfortunately. I think that's why I've been so more obsessed with this ending, and it stuck with me way more than, you know, like, you know, Jodie Whittaker's ending, which we ended with a complete arc, and looking forward to the future, not like fucking being angry and thinking about what we've missed out on. It's just unfortunate, man. I've got nothing else to say.
I mean, I'm just you can't see me, right? But I've got my head, not my head in my hands. I've got my hands behind my head, just looking up at the ceiling, right? I'm just there, kind of thinking. It's all coming to me in waves. Do you have any more bullet points?
Well,
or have we gone through everything? I feel like we've gone through basically everything I can think of.
Yeah,
I hope the audience had a great time. I'm sure they did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this has been pretty cathartic. I mean, I haven't been able to, like I said,
been brilliant. I've had so much fun.
Yeah, it's been great. And I mean, I haven't been able to speak to anyone about this stuff because, like I said, the co-host who will eventually be coming on for future episodes, he hasn't watched any of the new era. He's just heard stuff from me and seen stuff online. So I haven't really had to be able to talk to anyone and get really in depth about this. So yeah, exactly. I can. So I haven't actually been able to voice my opinions on any of this stuff to anybody. So it's been really frustrating. I've just been kind of seething. I've been sitting there making YouTube videos helps to a certain extent. But I think there's just such a huge disappointment here. Because I'm looking at my personal ranking of where the episodes have come, and looking towards the lower half, which for the most part is all early series 1 stuff. For this new one, because unfortunately I feel like we started on maybe a bit of a Debbie Downer with series 1, maybe how we got into the show, right, for new viewers. And of course, I think I've established very well on this channel, I really do not like Joy to the World. But it's just so unfortunate to see a reality war there, where realistically, without that ending, it would have just been a middling episode. It would have been, for me, probably around Wish World mid, right? Maybe below that. Maybe I don't know, maybe Church on Ruby Road for me. That's off my ranking, Yeah, just it's got its flaws. The treatment of Belinda would have been awful, but overall,
and mainly the Doctor winning the day by shooting a gun, even though the whole point was that whatever. Right? But again, whatever, right? You can kind of
just move on, wouldn't you? You know what I mean?
I've had a bad taste in my mouth. The episode has won. It broke me.
Yeah,
I think that should be my final statement on the matter until I inevitably talk about it again in about 2 days.
Yeah, exactly. Before we just really summon me what it is. But yeah, it's unfortunate. Hopefully, look, I know we spoke a lot about the show possibly ending. This is where it is, right? But hopefully, in a year's time, right, we're sitting, we're doing another podcast, and it hasn't, right? We maybe got a new announcement or something. This Sea Devil show, right, or the War Between the Land and the Sea, right? Some people are debating if it's Sea Devils or whatever, even though he said it is, but we can't trust him anymore, right? We don't know. It looks great. It looks fantastic. It looks really gritty, down to earth. Kind of gives me I know it's not, but it kind of gives me that Torchwood level of grit vibes, right? Where it's more down to earth, bar the Cybermen sex and stuff. It fills me with this is what this era should have been, right? It should have been something different. That looks more like a traditional TV show, right? More than a sci-fi show. And that's got me really excited. It's got me excited that they're doing something completely different. Even to the extent of different to Torchwood and the Sarah Jane Adventures and Doctor Who. That's got me really excited, and it looks genuinely decent. So there's still a bit of hope floating around there. But I think hopefully the hopes should start to come back. Maybe in a month's time when hopefully they've said something. And of course when that sour taste of Billy Piper just being there, stuck poorly over shooting out his poor face, is kind of washed out. Because ultimately that's it's a great metaphor, but it's actually what they did is they just stuck something over the top of him. It's just unfortunate. But positive vibes.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a great place to end it off.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I appreciate
we can have a conversation again in about, I don't know, when something new happens, as in news or whatever, to see if that changes our vibes. But I think that's
hopefully
pretty much where we're at right now. You
know
what I mean?
You definitely. I think we've got everything out. Talking about this era as a whole. But I think we've closed pretty much everything. I don't think there's too much that we've missed out on anything. So I do appreciate you coming on the brand new podcast on the actual Doctor Who channel this time. So maybe it might actually get pushed out this time to Doctor Who fans and stuff. So yeah, I do really appreciate you coming on to depressingly talk about the new era or the old era now.
Oh, don't say that. No. Well, anyway, thank you so much for having me on the channel, my friend. And I hope everything goes well with the co-host and everything. And I can't wait to see what you do next.
I appreciate that, man. You too. And everyone watching, thank you for watching a very, very long podcast. Going over some, more depressing. And hopefully the future episodes of the Who Talks podcast should be, a little bit more cheery, a little bit more, chaotic.
Hooray!
And a bit less depressing. So I'll catch you in the next episode of the Who Talks podcast. Jesus, we get there eventually.